So I'm gonna call this March 2nd meeting of the Planning Commission work session to order. And I guess we'll start off with any initial comments from Kurt, the staff.
Hopefully everybody got the kind of a memo there. With the agenda, so I think today we were going to start talking about lodges, if that was a little bit of a hot topic. So you have two different memos from both Ms. Anderson and Mr. Barnhofer. They included. And then there is also a little discussion from Mr. Barnhofer on patio homes. Next is multifamily housing affordability. That was multifamily housing in general. And finally, there was the revised lot diversity standards. So you had the Fort Royal standards, and I revised the one I had sent to you like 6 months ago. So with a different way of doing it, but I just handed that out. And then finally, you have kind of the updated red line sheet of all the changes from the meeting on the 18th. It's just 12 days ago, 13 days ago. So just added everything that we revised from that. So it's going to go off of this moving forward, change it. And then he sent an email like an hour ago, and I should probably send copies of it. I'll actually make copies of it about definition for low country. Accurate, but let me. I got it. I got it. Yeah, we can make copies of that. I thought it was a copy of it. I read it. I'll make sure. So that was kind of the plan, is to wrap all those things up, and then hopefully at the next meeting, which is also a work session, to just kind of put all of the maybe we'll talk about that practices and finishing touches or any. And then the next work session, maybe we got it ready for final. All of this stuff. So that's the plan. So again, garages, then we're gonna go to patio homes and affordability for affordable housing. And lot diversity, and anything else you want to discuss. So that's the schedule for today.
I think we're more than just garages, I think we diversity issue.
Yeah, the lot diversity was
Yeah.
in a different chapter, so that's what I passed out. That was the final thing.
Or we're in section 4, it's in the same article 4.
Well, the lot diversity was gonna be in Article 2. Well, that's why I put it last, but I guess we
I've had
have
a conversation because I thought it was all in 4. There was section 4.3, there were a number of sections where I had language and you did, and we didn't really discuss it, like section 4.4, section 4.5. When you say different chapter, what are you talking about? You talk about
Well, the lot
article?
diversity section was in chapter 2, but I guess we can move it to chapter 4, which is those.
Well, there was, you had a section 4.4, article 4.5.4.B.2, single family detached housing diversity, that's where it was.
Yeah, there are two different things, but
Maybe
we can just combine that conversation.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we were talking about the same thing. And also, you read my memo, where I had a meeting with you and Libby about patio homes and some other things, just to talk some ideas, and I gave you examples of pictures of different homes and garages and stuff. I eliminated any further talk about patio homes, so nobody's talking about it today, because I think Libby and you just, for whatever reason, had a resistance to it, so it was fine, but I didn't care. I didn't care that much. But so no reason even bringing it up, and that's what I said in my memo. But I do address, and others may have the same thing. I do address the subjects of in 2 and 3 unit houses and in single family, the issues both of garages and of housing diversity, and in row homes and townhomes, because you did. Yeah, I just thought that what I provided better cleanup of the ideas you expressed, which I thought were good. So that's that, just as a little clarification, when we get to that today.
So I think I think we were gonna go back to the beginning again also for any cleanup, that we might have.
Yeah, I don't know that we'll be able to do that today, but if we can, I guess.
Clean up chapter.
Oh,
Yeah.
We got, is that our last meeting, we got to the end of chapter 4 as far as your summary.
that's correct.
Yeah,
We never didn't go through the detailed
right,
discussion,
exactly.
starting at the beginning. So there's some sections that we just need to
Exactly,
go back to clean up.
yeah, like one, that just, yeah.
And, because and before we get started, I'll just say that there is a discrepancy that I haven't brought up yet, that is between the beginning part of chapter 4 and the end of chapter 4. And I wanted to clean that part up, when we do get to the.
What discrepancy are you referring to?
Well, it's a discrepancy where we're talking about, offsets on the same criteria. And the offsets in the first part of the chapter 4 are 18 inches. And I was the one that originally brought it up, and I said 18 or 24. I prefer 24. Well, the back part of chapter 4 is all 24 inches, but the front part was 18.
Yeah, we can fix that.
And so we could just pick that up also when we go back through the, and just make sure that we cleaned up the front part of that. I'm not sure how far we go before we hit what we started with in our last session to get to the end.
Yeah,
But if
I
we
think
can
my
mark
goal
that.
here today was talk about all the last big topics that need to be cleaned up. And then,
Yeah,
since your next meeting is like what's the 2 weeks? Yeah, so then I think that would be good. We can start on the cleanup of, then we can start really formatting and cleaning up at least chapter 4 and, maybe talk about the bed and breakfast thing in chapter 2 or 3, and 3. I think that's pretty much and then just the cleanup of the document, those details that would be completed in the next meeting and the final, the next work session.
I want to make sure when we get to the bed and breakfast that we publicize that pretty well. So that general community does get now is knowledgeable that we are going to be covering that. So before we get started, based on our agenda here, we have public comment. Just to make it clear, as we go through our work sessions, we'll continue to invite public comment. So there's no problem there. If there's public comment that wants to be made, other than going through the section, I would invite public comment now. Yes, Paul.
Well, just very briefly,
State your name and address.
Paul Trask, 610 Bladen Street. I'm very sorry I was unable to make the last meeting with the weather delay. Adam Beery came to you and made a presentation that essentially talked about the merits of addressing in significant street corners with one story, and talked about some flexibility with setbacks to create plazas on the front and perhaps on the side. And the third issue was had to do with access ways, oftentimes directly into a front door, but also alternatively onto a plaza, which then subsequently would go into the building, which accomplished the same thing. So I hope that his presentation was well received. I know he worked with the city architect on that, Jeremy, and I know that those issues will be coming back up. I'll leave it alone. If anyone had any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Anything online? Any public comment online?
I don't have that laptop yet. Sean's in review, he was traveling, should be here shortly.
Oh, okay. Well, if something pops up, let me know and then
Sean.
we'll go back to it.
Sean will be able to tell you. if he gets here.
So people could be online thinking right now that they're being heard, but we don't have a laptop.
I mean, they would be able to raise their hand. Sean's reviewing it. He's literally en route right now. He just passed through LBT, so should be here within 10, 15 minutes.
No, I'm just saying, I mean, are they just kind of hanging out there until we get the laptop here?
At the moment, yes.
Okay,
Just, I'll come back to that if anybody's online. So Kurt, I'm gonna, go back to you and let you, bring up whichever sections you want to bring up, to start with.
Well, let's go to garages because we have the extra meeting. You have actually three documents under that. This was related to single family garages, so
I'll just take it to the right proper sections.
well, first, I guess, bring up Ms. Anderson and Mr. Barton with this email or memo.
And that's a little bit forward of the other things that I had in earlier 4.5 section, so we can come back to those. But if you wanna start with garages, it's fine.
Yeah, let's start with the garages and then
Which comment would you like to start with?
Well, I thought Kurt introduced,
yeah, I have this.
this whole idea of, in his red comment, this whole idea of, requiring a little more, design distinctiveness, when it comes to the fronts of homes, particularly in what might be referred to as tract divisions. And this has been a common, concern that planning staffs, in particular planning commissions, maybe all around the country, have had about front entry garage subdivisions. And I don't think we see it here. I'm having a hard time thinking of a subdivision that was the worst example of it, or worst example, and the most criticized example, but it ended up becoming one whereby the house looked like an afterthought and the garage protruded so far beyond the front facade of the house that it really looked like a house attached to a garage. And there are a variety of ways is to address that. One is requiring the garage not protrude beyond the front facade of the house, or perhaps some argument would be better yet, have it recessed slightly. But then there are other design issues that still are extant, which are like, you know, these large 2-bay garage doors, or in some communities, you know, 3 garage doors. Even out on Dottock, for example, there's a lot of 3 garage door homes because of the predominance there of golf carts as a third vehicle. Now, they've addressed a lot of that by having these courtyard entry where they have the garages perpendicular to the 90-degree angle to the house. But that isn't commonplace here. Neither the third garage third garage door for a golf cart or the courtyard entry or side entry. But if you go out to the largest, newest community, which is the one we've often talked about, which is, I forget the name. They did a pretty good job, because what they do there, if you recall, they all have a porch, some more significant than others, which protrudes beyond the front facade of the garage. So if you eliminated the porch, I'm not so sure that those garages actually are set back, but they've done it that way so that at least the sense is that they're set back a little bit. But for the most part, they continue to be just one large white garage door, usually with no other articulation in there. So I took what was Kurt's sort of theme, or whoever was working with Kurt on staff, and in my 4.5.4.B7, which was a single family detached housing parking garage. I started there by saying, if we are going to regulate the location of design garages, which, you know, I concur with, might be a good idea. I recommend we reference parking as well, and that this entire subsection be written as follows. And then you can see where I underlined it, that would be, the way that I would recommend doing it. And because we're online, I don't know whether I should read this or not, but there's a subpart A, B, then B, there's a little 1, 2, 3, 4 there, which deal not only with the position of the garage relative to the balance of the house. And there, I don't particularly care about the minimum setback. There I had 3 feet from the front of the side. I don't care if it's 18 inches or 24 inches. I don't know why I put in 3 feet there. I think that was something I was more familiar with. But the idea is that it be setback, that they accommodate no more than 2 such vehicles. And that they have other design features, and I had contained a minimum of these design features. Elevated windows, because a lot of them don't have any windows, and they sell garage doors with windows, believe it or not. They also come in a color other than white, so I said, and there are architectural elements such as raised panels, applied trim and such that are part of the playbook that's, you know, all garage door sellers have. So that was my language, and I spent a lot of time crafting this language so that it would address this thing. And again, it was talking about new large subdivisions, not every home, you know, that's built on an infill lot. And it recognizes the fact that we're going to continue to have large subdivisions that have front entry garage doors, that they're not going to all be built on alleys. And when I met with Kurt and Libby just to go over this, I gave them a variety of subdivision designs that I presented that were low country subdivisions that showed that a lot of these just couldn't, because of the nature of the way that so many of these subdivisions are built on these marsh areas. They just aren't wide enough to have an alley and a front street and that sort of thing. And sometimes all you get is just, you know, some lots going down this side and some lots going down this side, and they're pretty, there's not much depth to them because they're constrained by the marshes and other waterways. So in any event, that's it right there. I don't know if you all take a chance to read it, but that's my recommendation. Now, Libby, I think on the other hand, of late after that discussion, she said, well, maybe we shouldn't regulate garages at all. Maybe what we have is good enough. And I wasn't looking to change this section. It was the fact that Curtis had already kind of taken us down that direction that I started thinking about it. And then I started thinking about it, as I said, in the context and experience I have for working for developers. I was my career, when we got into these in different communities, I was just trying to save the ability to have a front entry garage at all, because I'm just gonna tell you, that's the way that the tract builders, the DR Hortons and the Pulte's, that's all they build. That's what they build. They're not looking to do a New Point or a Habersham. You know, they'll do the kind of communities that you see, and they look for ground like they found out at Salem Bay, and that's what they want to build. And they will put on attractive doors. They do cost a little bit, but in fact, affordability. And they'll even argue that, you know, dealing with the protrusion issue isn't even, you know, a constraint on their ability to provide affordable housing. And their main argument that I've heard many times, and I've heard it from them, they've been their clients, is that people at a certain income level aren't interested in what it looks like from the street. They're interested in the maximum square footage they can get. And sometimes the design means that you sacrifice aesthetics or, you know, a lot of housing there. And if that means protruding the garage out front so you can have more living space, that's what we do. But they don't have to do it that way. It's just what, you know, that's sort of their model.
Because they're not building affordable housing anyway, so.
Well, when I say affordable, I mean, let me say, let's call it workforce housing. I mean,
But even Salem Bay is not really workforce housing.
well, that, so as Kurt and I have discussed, that same housing, which is probably in the $450,000 range here, in middle America would be $250,000. It's just that So they have those same houses, they just stamp them out with a different vernacular. Depending on the community and from a price, the reason that there's nothing that's really workforce housing here is because land is so expensive, there's such a demand for it and that sort of thing, but that would not be, that house is probably, what would you say in northern Kentucky where you're experienced, or in central Kentucky like I am, it's probably
Probably like 300.
300 maybe, yeah. It's less for sure. And nowadays, it's really possible, affordable home, for sale housing. You know, I mean, it just is. We're now into rental affordable housing.
It's on page 19 of your code, 4.5.47 feet, seven, or there. Put it up on the screen, so. As Bill mentioned, I was very restrictive on it, so Bill's kind of come in with the compromise, and Libby was kind of taking a position, don't do anything at all, so I think that's kind of where we're at.
I think what you're saying makes sense. I think what Libby makes sense too. I do think that maybe that we do update the definition for facade. Because Salem-based facade, they're counting the porch front as a facade. And
Well, I think our definition already doesn't consider the porch,
it was just a previous.
it was the previous that didn't realize that. But that is already, I mean, maybe it could be more clarified.
Yeah,
Yeah, because if we changed it where the porch isn't considered part of the facade, then
it would set back.
they'd have a real problem under any definition, I think. Because they're not really set back, they're sort of,
Oh, so you think that the porch should be?
what are you saying? Are you saying that the porch should be considered?
It shouldn't be.
Should not be. So I'm saying if you eliminated that from consideration in Salem Bay now, then I don't think the garages are recessed at all from the rest of the facade, are they?
That's correct. Yeah, they wouldn't be, it would go with that.
Well, it'd be recessed like 5 feet or something.
I don't, they might be recessed, you know
Not how
how
they're built.
Because those porches are roughly 8 feet in depth and they're recessed about 5 feet from the porch. So they'd still be like 3 feet in front of the pedestrian entrance.
But if we say that if we're saying the porch is not the facade and the house, entry.
Right.
Faces, it'll be 5 feet behind that entry door.
Yeah, whether we say 5 feet, 3 feet, or 18 inches, I'm not sure that they're behind the front facade at
No,
all.
they're not.
If you- if you-
They're not, they're in front of it.
And misinterpreted, that's the problem.
I think it was,
The porch, and that was.
That was the facade, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it does help, because if you didn't have those porches. It would look.
It adds to the offset of it.
Yeah, but so that's the point we'd have to consider, how much would it change those facades, all of a sudden we didn't consider the porch. And I would say that all of those would, under at least our current interpretation of things, none of those would meet code, right?
Well, here's a dumb question from a layperson. Why wouldn't you consider the porch? I mean, it's a permanent part of the house. It's what you actually see from the street. Is there architectural protocol that wouldn't allow you to?
You just have to change the definition to allow the porch. And I,
If
you
we
have to
just
say
do that.
something to the effect that you have to have an offset of 5 feet. And a porch may be included as part of that 5 feet. Porches have to be.
Or say
those 5 feet.
5 feet behind the front of the porch?
No, I think the best way to understand it is that this offset that everybody's talking about, what people really want and what they want to see happen is that the front wall of the garage be behind the front wall of the actual house itself, not the porch out front. Because the whole idea is to make garage a little less prominent and not have it stick way out in front of the house. So if that's your goal, then you shouldn't count the porch, because if you did, you'd need to make that offset 15 feet, because you would want to make absolutely sure you got the garage a certain distance behind the front. Because the whole goal here is to get the front face of the garage doors behind what is truly the front wall of the house. That makes sense.
And
Yeah,
there's-
but I'm just wondering, you know, why is that aesthetically superior to the porch solution at Salem Bay? You know, it certainly, you know, maybe would allow parking in the driveway. Is that something we wanna have people do as opposed to parking in their garage?
Yeah, I think because like if you count the porch as the facade, you know, it's kind of like an open, you know, air structure that doesn't really read as a mass. So, but if you, which makes the garage look like it's protruding, you know, it's kind of like basically your main mass of the house versus if you protrude that front door plus a porch, that's kind of, you know, this is the house.
Yeah.
That the garage becomes kind of secondary, even if it's in that.
And the whole idea is not to make the garage the most prominent architectural feature that you see when you're standing on the street looking at the house. And one way to do that is to push the garage back to some degree behind what is truly what I'll call the true front plane of the house. That makes sense. That's why you would do it, just so you don't drive down the street and see garage after garage after garage. You see
How far will we offset the garage then, off the face of the building?
Oh, no, I'll look where the architect.
Well, I mean,
Right now,
yeah.
I had recommended 3 feet, but as I said, I didn't.
Right now it says 5.
But I was assuming that, I don't know what I don't know if I was assuming that well, if what Benji says we shouldn't count porch, then you're behind the porch and an additional 3 feet. If we wanna, so anyway, but I don't care whether it's 3 or 5, it's just, the more that it's set back, the more that it impacts the ability of those builders to provide the housing design, thinking really of the interior space that they have to deal with. So to me, it seems like the real question of how much of an offset is enough to make it feel like it's not forward of the house.
Maybe 3 feet.
You know,
I think from a constructability standpoint, you're talking about how you save costs. The reason it's straight across is because they can use their materials straight across. But then the offset would be probably behind the garage because the garage traditionally is what, 22 feet deep.
24, yeah.
And a house is probably greater distance than that wide. And so all it's saying is, all we're really saying is, from a constructability standpoint, we'd like the garage offset so it doesn't look as bad from the street or monolithic. And that offset could be, you know, the contractor could have it go straight across the back instead of creating it straight across the front. We're interested in what it looks like from the front facade. And I think there needs or should be an offset there for sure.
You're saying that you could take the rear wall of the garage and locate that and tie that to the rear wall.
Well,
of
you
the
could
house.
if they wanted to.
Yeah,
Yeah, because a house traditionally is more than 22 feet wide.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So how is the term facade defined right now? Could you read that language to us?
I'll recognize you while we're looking.
I think it's important to bear in mind that if we're talking about a large tract development, the lots haven't been configured. You know, they're buying a big piece of land. They haven't laid out the streets. They haven't laid out the lots. The lots can be laid out in a manner. And any D.R. Horton that wants to come in and build 200-300 homes can modify. They've got people in their offices that can modify a plan that can make a house. It's not so broad. It's not so wide. And so you could set a garage back where it still is attached to the house.
Right.
But it's set back and importantly, set back enough so that at least one vehicle could be in the driveway without actually being in the garage. And I think it would be a terrible mistake to eliminate the front porch. That is a critical item if we're trying to create a walkable neighborhood. That would be a very poor idea, I think. That should be kept, and a provision for a little bit wider sidewalks, 6 feet, that encourages people to actually walk together. Those are fundamental elements, and that the lots can be tailored to meet the demands of the building form requirement that you're discussing.
So just picking up a little bit on what Paul said, you know, I'd like to make sure that we have, if we start with pushing the garages back even further, that they don't compensate by eliminating these porches, you know? And so we'd have to have a provision in the design of these houses that there's always a front porch. And it ought to be defined with, if it's such that it has a depth significant, you know, great enough that you can actually put a chair on it. Because too many times these porches end up becoming, they're good for nothing, you know?
That's why I'm saying minimum.
Folding chair.
Not even a folding chair, you know?
Yeah, I think we already did the definition for a porch, or that we require either a porch, a stoop, or a common yard.
Right, and the porch needs to be at least 8 feet.
But a stoop is, if we give them the alternative, a stoop or a porch.
Yeah, a stoop's not really.
A stoop is nothing.
So how is facade?
In the code, it's just the vertical surface of the building is all really.
So if we define it as a vertical surface of the building, then and I guess you can add the words not including the porch. You know, the way that I wrote it was, if attached to the house, the front end of your garage shall be recessed a minimum of 3 feet, that can be 5 feet from the front side of the house. What I wrote is fine, as long as facade doesn't include the porch.
Or you could just say the vertical side of the building.
Vertical surfaces.
Yeah,
Well, just to be clear, so they don't do that interpretation again, somebody might interpret the vertical surface to be the front of the porch. That was the problem.
the vertical surface of the building, not including the porch.
Right.
In section 4, it does already classify like the porches, stoops and all those as frontage types. So maybe just keeping that language frontage type, you know, like not counting the frontage type.
Yeah,
I think not included.
as long as it's clear in there, just,
Yeah, no. So you have 3 options here. You have my option, which is basically like the form-based code type of, let's pretty much restrict them from the front.
So let
we
me
want
just-
that walkable.
yeah,
community.
we can do
You
that.
know, Bill's version, which I think is really good. It's a bit of a compromise, but it's kind of leading you
But here's
down.
what I also did, if you read my paragraph 8, it's sort of a acknowledgement of where Bert was going, I said, because everybody was arguing, the preferred form is rear entry, I said the preferred form of new single family housing development. Again, I'm talking about development, is one whereby parking, apart from occasional on-street parking and including garages, is accessed from a rear alley. If an applicant can demonstrate the satisfaction of the code administrator, or if not him, then the planning commission, that a relatively small, narrow, or irregular size of a new subdivision development or other configuration of land and or environmental constraints and or location of abutting streets and or design of abutting subdivision development are such that rear alley access, alley fed parking, including garages, are impractical because of the resulting lot layouts and yields, then for an entry, non-alley fed garages would be allowed. So my point is, I think that these developers that are constrained with the kind of land that you just find around here would make that argument frequently, but they would have to make that argument either to Kurt's satisfaction, or if Kurt said no, come to the whole planning commission and present to us why they should be allowed to have the front access. And then if they make the argument, which Salem Bay might very well have been able to make, then we grant it. But if we look at it, we go, there's no reason you can't alley access. I don't have a problem with just me personally saying that our preferred form is alley access, which I think is sort of where you, Benji, and Libya were sort of coming from in our earlier conversations. And that's why I wrote that the way I did. Now, if the rest of you say, well, I don't really have a preference for alley fed, then we can get rid of all that language. But that's the reason I wrote it the way that I did there. I was trying to recognize that that may still be our overall preferred form of development. And they have to make the case as to why they aren't gonna go that direction. That was just my way of sort of dealing with stuff Kurt and others. That-
Yeah, I think Bill's draft is good, and, you know, it's a good compromise between the two sides. I would just add the 5 feet to 3 feet and not including the porch, you know, the high.
So is the idea to,
That's a good compromise.
well, we're not really getting rid of this, garage, the current garage standards on 2.4.1, are we?
No.
Okay, so this is just.
This would be in addition to, especially if we go to the 5 feet, all be the same. I think it's pretty well done. I don't know how everybody else.
So let's say that they do something with the porch. So that there's an 8-foot porch. That our standard or minimum?
Yes.
Okay, and then they've got to be 5 feet back from the front of the house. So you're 13 feet back, plus whatever setback there is.
Right.
So the porch has to be set back from the road, and we got maybe a 6-foot sidewalk in there, and it is putting you back pretty far.
No,
You don't think so?
no, because the house is gonna be wider than what the garage is deep anyhow. So it's the setback of the house that really dictates the lot. The garage, it's the width. If you put a garage on it from a width standpoint, then it works. It'll work with whatever you have for the house.
So let's
Just really the house setback.
let's just look at it this way. You said
Issue you're talking.
the normal setback for a house like Salem Bay is what, 20 feet or 25 feet?
Between 15 and 30.
So it can be up to 15. The porch can be as close as 15.
Well, the porch can be closer because porches, all frontage sites are allowed to
But
encroach
we have,
certain amounts.
but we have a minimum depth on the driveway all the time, don't we?
If the garage doors,
In
if
the
it's,
front.
yeah, if the garage doors are facing the road, then you have to be at least 20 feet back from the right of way.
Okay, so if they brought the porch as close as, porch can be how close? What's the closest?
As
Can encroach as close as you want.
can be like 7, 8 feet from the property line in T3N in Salem Bay.
Oh,
Yeah. So. Cause if they put the front facade of the house at that 15-foot line, which is the closest they could, the porch wouldn't count for that, and that's allowed to encroach another, I think, 7 feet, 7 or 8 feet.
I see.
Yeah.
So if the house is 15 feet back and then the garage is another 5 feet, that's
20 feet from.
20 feet, and then the depth of the garage is 22 minimum, so that's just 44. Your lot's probably gonna be,
Well, but your house is gonna be more than the
no,
garage.
I know, I'm just saying, but that's
Doesn't make any
44 and
difference.
the lot is probably 80
Yeah.
to 100 feet. Yeah, you still have a lot of room to build.
Yeah, still have a backyard.
And then you got your,
Yeah.
so you might not have a, yeah, I get it.
So where do we end up? Well, I think Bill's draft works with our current garage standards really well and provides the extra clarity that we were looking for to kind of administer this a little better, so we don't have another Salem Bay. So that's my opinion.
I'd just like to ask, Ben, did you
That's
have any
okay.
problem with those draft ways?
So are we copying, basically copy and paste?
Yeah,
This?
be a copy and paste.
So we would change 3 to 5.
Yeah,
The only thing that I'm not 100% about is the part where it says the on B1 shall be located if entirely detached from a house or accommodating more than 2 regular sized vehicles. The part where it says it shall be located no closer to the front of the house than the rear wall of the house.
So in other words, if it's a standalone garage, somebody's just building standalone garages. So you can attach it with a carport, then it's attached to the house, but if it's just a standalone garage, it's gotta be located behind the house facade. I mean, and then it's back there,
Okay.
Maybe that could use a
and
little
that's why I said, if
clarity on that.
if entirely, oh, and if anybody ever decides they wanna do a 3-car garage, I thought that was going too far in terms of too much width, and that's why I said, any portion of such garage, meaning the detached garage, accommodate more than 2 cars shall not be visible from the street, so they'd have to then have that part of the garage where you kind of pull back behind the house. You know what I'm saying?
Makes a lot of sense.
So these standards, I just want to make sure, we want these to apply to infill lots as well?
No, this is only for T, but basically for detached, amateur suburban lots.
Okay.
Other thing. I'm just not sure if you need to have this or not, but I see what you're saying where, you know, we're on 3 front end garage shall have contain a minimum of 2 these design features. And there's basically 3, you know, options in here. And say like, think like, what if I didn't want raised panels or windows that kind of just leaves me with the color option. So,
Well, I just said architectural elements such as a raised panel and applied, I mean, I don't know, I don't care if it's one, I just thought
Yeah.
something other than just a plain white garage, that's all I was
Yeah.
saying.
and I could see it like, kind of like where it might be good if it could, you know, blend in with the house. So I could see it like, the house was white, you pick a white garage door, maybe it would blend in better versus picking a black garage door, but anyway, I can see either way. So I'm kind of just not sure if that's necessary or.
We'll just say one design element, you know, which could be at least minimally put windows, those elevated windows in the garage, you know?
Well, the feature that's most detrimental is the garage, like you said.
Yeah.
It's a bit of white pasteboard.
Yeah.
And we wanna jack that up in terms of
Yeah.
design and
You
architectural.
want it to be different.
We do want it to be different, so I'd like to see somehow in that paragraph, Bill, some more meat to that, or we've got to do this, this, and this. Instead of giving them options, so we don't end up with just a big white chalk.
Well, this one says that if they want to have white, they'd have to have the windows and some other kind of applied materials, you know?
Yeah, because I actually, it's kind of neat the way he's done it because you have to pick a minimum of 2. And that moves that removes the possibility of putting in just a plain flat. All right.
It can be white, but it can't be plain, it's gotta have windows.
You have to have something.
Built has built-in diversity.
Yes.
So should we say like color other than the siding color or?
Well, that's, you know, well, whatever.
Do you not want the color to be the same as the siding color for the door?
I was just thinking like, what if, I guess if your siding's blue color other than white, what if I want my garage door to be white?
Well, like if you had a trim color that was like beige. You'd want your garage door to be beige to match the trim.
So should we say, add another sentence that says desirably, comma, garage door colors should not match that of the home siding color? Is that what you're going after?
I guess.
They make these really, I mean, you look through a garage door catalog, it's amazing diversity stuff they have in there, and then a lot of them are these, as you well know, these, carriage house kind of doors. They're kind of fake that way, but they can look pretty cool,
Yeah,
you know?
and
And
I was just thinking like if, like my windows are white, my front door's white, I want to match that.
Yeah, are we getting too prescriptive?
Yeah, I think
That's,
I guess my question is, does Bill have, when we show these diversity pick 2 kind of a thing, does the color make that much of a difference?
I think that, but I just said a color, it can be one of them, you know, so if you end up having. I don't know, I mean, if you have windows and a green door, you know. Two,
are we good with his language or?
I mean, I kind of think the garage door should match either the trim color for the siding color. I don't think it should be a third color. You know, such as if somebody wants a green front door on their red house that has white trim, I don't think the garage door should be green or I forbid blue. I think that, you know, that
I
defeats
just
the
think we're getting
purpose.
too prescriptive.
Yeah, so
I-
you just
I-
want to leave it the way it was, and just move on. Or is everybody good? I'm good with Bill's language. I mean, it's good that we talk about it. That's how we get good ideas. We brainstorm everything, right? Yeah, I think everybody's kind of,
Does anybody have,
everybody's kind of like, oh.
does anybody have
It's
a
okay.
problem?
Hey, I was trying to restrict completely garages, so.
Does anybody have a problem with Bill's language? If not, then we'll go forward.
Gonna change it to 5 foot, not 3 feet up there
Yes,
in,
sorry.
that's
And
correct.
including,
And not including the porch.
we
yeah,
put it right up there in the screen.
there's not.
And pick 2 design features.
Do you want to talk affordability and multifamily?
Well, I'm gonna just do my other items, which are in the same section. If you wanna do the,
If you want to do lot diversity and.
there's a single family detached housing diversity amount, which was 4.5.4.B2. And that was pretty much what you had. I just was adding a sentence. You can see how I said, in order to make clear that the new standard applies to not existing development, I recommend that between the first words or in say for any new development. So I'm talking about infill kind of. And then in the 8th through 9th, 11th lines, I recommend it or better elucidate meant by the term no similar building, just went recorded at it. I said last 3 sentences beginning with words building and designs be deleted and replaced with this one. It's building designs shall be considered similar unless they are distinguished by colors as well as some combination of uniquely designed entryway, porches, windows, and roof lines such that they plainly look different one from the other. Square footages and massing characteristics do not have to be different. In other words, all the houses in the development can have the same square footage and, you know, the massing, but we want them to look different. And I just said should be considered similar and kind of distinction. So that's what I'm suggesting as a way to distinguish these things, so it just doesn't look like what I said is you come home and the only way you can distinguish your house as a neighbor is by the street number. Now, that's not a problem right now at Salem Bay, I don't think, but it was enough of a problem that we're trying to address it. And I just thought this was a little clearer way of doing it.
Yeah, like, from our tour at Hamburg, it seems like kind of the main way they distinguished a lot of the houses from one another was color alone. Do you guys remember that?
Color alone?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously they're apart, you know, single family, I mean, but like there's, I'm thinking of those, there were like 3 or 4 houses in a row early on in the tour. They all had steps. They all had they had a light fixture, the light fixture was a little bit different on each one. But the main distinguishing thing that I recall from those, and they're right next to each other if they didn't actually touch,
What's called.
was color. That's what I'm thinking about, and I mean, that's obviously the easiest way to do it and the least, you know, at least work. But I thought we wanted more than that.
Yeah, and that's why I said and distinguished by colors as well as some combination of uniquely designed entryways, porches, windows and roof lines. So I mean, roof line can be a major distinction, you know. And, you know, the entryways and porches can be different, but you know, I'm not, this way, we're not telling what they have to do, they just have to. And the one that's gonna enforce that is gonna be his staff. They're gonna look at it, they're gonna say, you know,
Is that good enough
Yeah,
to work with, do you think, Kurt?
I think so. What it was there. So, oh, here I have it.
yeah, so that language right there
Right
is
now,
what.
it said varying footprint and size. By unique architectural vision. You know, roof forms, massing. So I mean, I think
That's, you put in my language there.
I would only suggest adding, one word because, it all relates to that. What that would be as distinguished by colors as well as massing of some combination of uniquely designed entryways. I think it's the massing of the building that, we would like
I don't know.
distinguished. So if you just add massing after the word as and massing of, and then some
Let's give it
combination.
massing characteristics.
So what do you mean by massing? I mean, because
Massing is basically, the entire
Can you
element
massing
of
characteristics?
the building itself, and it includes, roof structures,
Let's put word.
well,
materials.
massing,
All the things you talk about are differences in massing.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you, Mike. But otherwise, keep everything that. you add.
Well,
Just add that one word.
oh, I see, massing some,
Yeah, because massing is important, so take it out. Because you don't want.
so you're, the word massing there is a verb? You're massing some design, take the comma after massing out of there? Is that what you're saying? Unless they're distinguished by colors, and then you're saying massing some design, like massing,
And then comma.
is it a verb or is it I'm confused by what you mean by
Massing
that.
of structure.
You're talking, because you said massing, the combination of design.
How about massing proportions?
Are distinguished by colors, massing proportions of? Or,
Of.
oh, okay,
Of
okay,
some
okay,
combination.
massing proportions of some combination. Does that make sense? I don't know.
Yeah.
Massing.
Unless you change the massing, they just
Well,
can still look the same.
How about massing elements?
That would be right too.
Massing elements of some combination, maybe that's it.
Yeah. I think that'd be.
Yeah, maybe that makes more sense.
That eliminates the repetition, right?
Massing elements of some combination. Okay, yeah, I get it.
Have a combination, it's not the same,
Yeah,
same old.
okay.
Okay, and then Bill is suggesting to make the same change, 2 and 3 mainly, which I think, just if you go to his next level. Right? So it's 3.5.6 so let's just copy what you did there in yellow. And let's.
And then what I did on the garage things for section 4.5.5 B9, 2 and 3 unit parking in your garage. That one I said different than single family. If we're gonna regulate location, design and garage size, I recommend we reference parking as well, but make this simpler by deleting the proposed language and only replacing with the follow-up. Then I said, apart from occasional on-street parking, all parking, including garages and carports, in any 2 and 3 unit development shall be located to the rear. So there, we're just saying if it's a 2 and 3 unit development, I think that's what Libby and you were suggesting, that should be parking to the rear. Because typically those don't have garages in the front of them anyway, right?
Not in South.
Yeah.
If you, well.
And I gave you
see
some
that, they
pictures.
look pretty tragic.
I gave you some pictures of where they are in the front and then I think it was a desire not to do that. So then the diversity model would do it the same way as we just discussed, I guess, the same way the phone one. Now row homes and 2 and 3 units will have parking in the rear, right?
Well, I'm good with that. 1.5.6 B.8. That's a mouthful. 4.5.
But we
So
dealt
he
with,
wanted to just, he wanted to, make this, simple and just instead of all this,
yeah,
just replace it with, so sorry. Just replace it with the sentence that he proposed, which I think is very succinct and,
I mean, my point
you
is,
know, how about that?
my point is if the parking is in the rear, we don't need to regulate what it looks like as much. You're not gonna see it from the street anyway, so if the only place you're gonna see the garages or the parking is from the alleyway, we're not as concerned about what the garage looks like.
I just would only warn that you can have like canyons and like long stretches of garages on townhouses that are very unattractive, especially if they build them right up to you know, up to the property line or behind it or or just rows of garages. That's I think what I was
So
trying to
that
get
it
at
might
here.
be visible to, maybe somebody across the waterway or something.
That's right. Yeah. So, I mean, surely that could probably be reduced, but I think that would be my concern is you might get like these back, you know, areas that are just. I mean, maybe if we keep our minimally visible from any public rights of way or internal streets, I think that was kind of the goal. So the garage shall be placed, that was the whole point.
You can probably deal with it with fencing or landscaping or something in a lot of those cases.
Yeah, the goal was to kind of produce. You can kind of see it over in the new apartments on Margaret, so just imagine if those big blocks of garages were up against like Main Street, you could see those because they're on the rear of the building. That was what I was trying to put.
Which letter there?
Well, I'm open to suggestions. So that was the goal, was really to kind of make sure those weren't going to be visible from like a larger street. And if they are.
What if we just added to Bill's language something like, appropriate screening, may be required at the discretion of the administrator of the planning commission?
Yeah, and maybe just a few extra things, minimally visible and maybe, do we want them to attach? How that 30 not exceed 55 feet? Not visible, the public right away, whatever possible. You guys understand what I'm trying to get at here, architects?
So you have to have, you can only have up to 3 bays basically, and then you have to separate them.
Break it up.
I think that makes sense.
That makes sense. And maybe add Bill's language and just keep like, D and, B. Yeah, A, B, and D.
But we're not allowing front?
No,
No.
his even say that, apart from occasional on-street, all parking, including garage and car park, shall be located in the rear of the row homes and access to the row. Which is, I think, fine. And so maybe just A should be his language and then they shall be minimally visible from any. Put it on A there. Okay.
Well, the first, sentence B is important then, because that's what I've already said.
Yeah.
So your A would. The only thing is maybe the second sentence of A
Yeah, second.
shall be minimally visible from any public right of ways.
Do we care about neighbors? You know, there might be a situation where there would be all the garages in the back. But there's actually neighbors. Well, I mean, so. There's 2, 3, then here's the garages for these in the back, in the property line, and there's actually a neighbor right here that would be looking at that. I mean, I guess they could build their own fence.
Just a minimally visible from public streets or neighboring properties.
Yeah, that's a good way.
And then they just have to demonstrate to court how they're dealing with the minimally visible.
Yes, we can get rid of the first sentence. A case that you can't do, it's just like an out, you know, like. But if you ever develop a piece of property that's adjacent to existing homes, if you have that minimally visible language, I'm not, I don't know how that works, because you're going to see it.
Well, I would think that if you have
You're going to
a
see
lot,
it.
if you do an alley that's serving houses on both sides, you know, then obviously it's not a problem because they both back up to the same alley and they
But I
got.
think what Kim was describing was where you have an alley that accesses garages and there's pre-existing home stock on the other side of the
And
alley.
then I was thinking you can probably deal with landscaping along that alleyway or fencing along that alleyway.
I don't think we're gonna have that problem because the townhomes, the row homes are only allowable in like a T4, T5 district.
Landscape.
If you have a single family detached on across from it, that probably is maybe a T3 S zoning. And we have the buffer requirements, so between different zones, they will have to put in a buffer
Some kind of
that
screen.
we included last year in chapter 5. So between different zones, there's gonna be a minimum of a type D buffer, which is that 20 to 30.
Well.
We have that
to
screening
address-
requirement.
Well, and then the
Ms.
buffer,
McFadden's,
so we're gonna have to buffer it around anyway.
To address Ms. McFadden's comment, you know, I already had E, so I just undid E. I'm telling Nicholas, maybe you see, they should not be visible from public or internal street whenever possible, and then it could be landscaping or appropriate buffering may be required by the planning commission or appropriate administrator. Cases, I don't know about writing. To accomplish this. I'll look the attorney. That's fine. All right. Well, I think next, if we agreed on all that, do we want to talk, do we want to go into the apartment discussion, or do we want to find off about the? But the apartment, I'm gonna be kind of developed.
We might as well stay in the same chapter, chapter 4.
Yeah, we're all in chapter 4, and so our next thing is, the other two big topics are lot diversity and then the affordable housing kind of topic. Where would you all like to go next? Let's do lot diversity.
What's that for now?
Well, lot diversity is somewhat complicated. So
You tell us the exact section.
So that'd be the next plus 4.5.7, but it's also in chapter 2. That's why I was thinking maybe we just start with, let's go to 4.5.7 and let's just start with that one. No. That makes sense. So,
Well, there's 4.5.5 before also.
Well, we just did the 4.5.5.
4.5.7 is apartments.
The 4 was 0.23 units. Well, it's the same.
Whatever.
Well, we're right here on apartment houses, so that's why I was suggesting maybe we just talk about affordability first, and then we'll just transition into lot diversity, because the lot diversity is like the lots. You know.
So you
so
want
it's in a separate section.
4.5.7, which is.
Yeah, which is apartment home, so, in your little memo, I had met with the housing trust. Their ideas there were. Yeah, we were talking about affordability. In your issue, and, you know, some of the ideas that they threw out were, like, reduction in design standards, a change in process where it's like administratively approved, or, maybe a reduction in some of these design standards could be administratively approved. Those were some of the kind of ideas, or give you a little more flexibility at, to lower cost, so. Those were some ideas, so I didn't put anything in the code, and then I think Bill also has kind of addressed that in his memo. And so I think we just needed to kind of talk about that, because it is an issue, and that's on his last page, 4.5.7.
So I'd be interested, so I wrote about that because I've had, again, a bunch of experience with that, and the affordable people, they always like to say that it's too hard for them to do. Well, if apartments I've found, I represent a lot of apartment development, I've always said the hardest thing to get built, and well, really all forms of housing are harder to get built. Commercial, just because people in the big houses don't want people in small houses, nobody wants apartments, they think everybody's a drug dealer. You know, and I've often, when I've had these meetings, sometimes I've stood up there and said, how many people lived in apartments at one point in your life? And they'll all raise their hands. I say, now, my next question is, were you all drug dealers when you lived in apartments? Because you're claiming that everybody moving into the new ones are. They'd say, of course we weren't. And I'd say, well, then how come everybody else moving into the new ones are? You know, it's just how the way people hate apartments. So the affordable ones are the hardest ones to get built because they can't get up there often and say, you know, resort style amenities and all the stuff that make it sound like, you know, you might actually consider living in it. But, you know, that's what we really need is the affordable stuff, you know, so it's oftentimes harder for those. But, you know, if, and in some places, and I don't think Beaufort falls into that, you know, there are some communities that, you know, the discretionary decision makers just don't approve affordable just because they don't want them anywhere in their community. But we don't have that problem. So they're not up against the fact that Beaufort is hostile. The Beaufort decision makers, the staff, the planning commission, or city government are hostile to affordability. So I guess I'm saying is if we're not really hostile to it, and we're not making it any more difficult for affordable housing developers than we are market rate housing developers, then they're already getting the assistance that the affordable developers are already getting assistance that market rate developers don't get. And that's almost always their tax credit deals. I mean, you almost never see an affordable housing community that isn't a tax credit deal. In some communities, they're tax exempt bond deals, but I don't even know if we have those here, but we do have tax credit. And so that kind of makes up for the loss of rent because that's what it's intended to do. So why do we want to cut the design standards? Because part of what I said is that everybody's just going to claim when they go through the review process that they're going to be affordable. And then guess what? They don't get the tax credits and they built them on the lower standards because we had no way of enforcing it, right?
I don't know, and the design review board, we certainly saw a lot of allegedly affordable housing that,
Never ended up that way.
yeah.
How many years are the tax credits usually good for? Contractually,
They're a long period of time.
you know, Kurt,
I don't.
It's
Paul, do you know?
Well, I think generally, I'm not sure about the tax credit side, but the financing side, you know, when they go to convert to, you know, they'll start off with a construction loan, and when they reach X percentage of, you know, filling it up, then they can roll it into a HUD-backed financing model. And the more affordable units they provide in the development, typically the lower the HUD rate is gonna be fixed for 30 or maybe 40 years. So that's kind of, I know that it works.
So.
I think as a general,
Credit then.
I think as a general rule, the whole conversation about affordable housing, I think that Bill's exactly right. You know, we're trying to find a way to to facilitate these structures being more affordable, but yet Beaufort Jasper, you know, charges the same capital contribution fees that are ever going up. Land costs are the same, the material cost is the same, the labor cost is the same. It's the same. And so it's a drop in the bucket to try to, you know, create some set of circumstances where the cost of building it is going to be lesser, and it compromises the design standards that the community really wants to see. So I think Bill's correct. I think probably there shouldn't be a compromise. And I think the focus on being on accessory dwellings. I've said that from the beginning. You know, those seem to be the best benefit. Not that everyone wants them, but you know, if you want an affordable rental that's beneficial to the owner and to the occupant, that's the way to go. So.
Well, it's gotta be more than accessible. Buildings.
I mean, apartments are not affordable housing. You know, they're typically owned by these big management companies. They raise the rent every single year. It's just like a storage unit. You go out and rent a storage unit, they're gonna, if it's $120 the first year, it's gonna be $135 the next and $150 the next. And it's just, that's just the way it is.
Except that those
business.
except that those that are approved, that go through that are awarded the tax credits by the agency that's responsible for awarding those tax credits, basically for the life of that project, they're stuck.
It's not, I don't think
no,
it's for the life of the project.
It
I
says
think
AI says
they expire after like 20 years and you can convert out of it.
Yeah, but
And you don't have to have any affordable units in it.
but you usually, but by that time, because the building is not, it's been depreciated just naturally by virtue of a lot of factors, that it's never gonna go from an affordable unit to a market.
The natural
It's just never
evolution of an apartment.
The natural evolution of every
Yeah,
apartment
initial
project is down. Even the affordable ones end up becoming, the market rate ones become affordable over time as they're replaced with.
Unless there's upgrades.
The older properties become the affordable
That's
unit.
right,
Yeah.
that's right.
That's what happens.
That's
The-
right.
The newer properties, you know, are certainly not affordable.
Unless they've got the tax credit requirements
That's
attached to
right.
them.
The older properties, in order to stay competitive, they have to be more affordable. That's just the way it is.
That's right.
The term is section 8 housing.
A class A becomes a class A minus, a class B, and they just do. And that's what apartment dwellers do, the same thing. I mean, they jump from apartment to apartment because they want to, oftentimes they just want to get in the newest one. You know,
Well, and
if you can afford it.
that market conditions and the fact that you're in your 40s, before you can even think about buying a house these days. I mean,
Or have you never.
yeah, or
So is the whole question of affordability, is that a separate topic of discussion? in what we're
Well, I
trying to
mean, a lot of
accomplish?
communities, you know, I brought this up. Is because, you know, a lot of communities have done something in their development code where they've expedited, you know, or taken away discretionary approval or expedited reviews or lower design standards in an effort to assist with affordability for affordable housing. That was the idea.
Well, I think that if
So
we,
that was the pitch to you. Is that something you want to think about? Because this would be the time to do it.
let me just say this, for example, in Louisville, where everything is discretionary. Everything is discretionary. That means that everything is hard. Here, as long as, if we have these exacting design standards and we don't necessarily put them through the ringer constantly when they meet that, you know, our standards, you know, that's a pretty good deal. That means that here, all we're trying to do is make that they meet our standards. The way we've written these things, we're putting a lot of standards in here, right?
well, I'm thinking about like the Pearl, our new I mean, that's
That's a
the
big-
closest thing to, affordable housing in Beaufort in terms of what they, those tiny, it's that former hotel that they converted into.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah.
yes.
And it still looks like a hotel to me.
That's because you knew it was a hotel.
But it was already built, so there was no design review on that, right?
Right, but, you know, I mean, it's possible that that's like the only way you can end up with rents at that level.
They're
In
all
multifamily,
studios.
you know,
Smaller.
Demo too out there.
Yeah, they're tiny. yeah.
And I bet that's not even a tax credit deal. I bet it's just. Is that Dick Stewart project? Is that where they just, he had a pretty brilliant idea to try to make an old hotel into something else, you know, and,
Downtown Fort Worth.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how, what the occupancy is there. I mean, I drove by there the other day, it's still got a big sign, you know, we're renting. I didn't see a lot of cars, but it was like the middle of the day, so.
The one thing I can think of everything we've discussed to make stuff affordable, that seems to make sense would be some kind of expedited process. Somebody who was truly gonna make something, affordable. Because based on everything I've heard and.
Then it becomes an incentive. You're saying that there's an incentive to make things affordable. Whereas what I've heard is this table saying that from a dollar standpoint, constructability,
It's not
you
much
can't
difference.
really make things
You can't,
affordable.
yeah,
Not in our,
yeah.
in our community.
exactly, yeah, it's hard to make things,
So
so
you're
what's left?
incentivizing somebody to bring the financial piece to it, to make it affordable.
what I'm
Not
saying,
compromising our standards.
what
Unless we
I'm
develop standards that are lower, a lower level standard.
what I'm saying is the complaints that a lot of these developers have aren't necessarily applicable to every community. And so I'm saying in some places, they can't get affordable stuff built because the communities just make it impossible. And the discretionary decision makers just keep raising the bar, because when you exercise discretion, you just keep getting to do that. And all I'm saying is we can make the process easier on everybody to the extent that we have really definable standards, and then when they come through, we don't keep sending them back because, you know, we send them back if they don't meet our code, but we don't keep sending them back because there's some other unachievable bar that we keep
Yeah, absolutely.
in front of them.
And I don't think that's an issue in our code, but I guess my point was. If it's really not possible to build something quote affordable because you can suddenly build it for 10, 15, 20% less than what going rates are for materials and labor and all that other stuff, then it seems like the only other tool that we have to try to help out people who are trying to build affordable units is to expedite their processes. Because I listened to what you said, what they wanted, because they want lesser standards, which it sounds like we're not open to. The only other thing that you mentioned that I think we could do for them would be to make their process go smoother, go faster.
Unless the other kinds of incentives would be to waive certain fees.
That would be the plan.
Give a, yes,
That would
it's
be
not
the
tax, it's a tax break for property taxes, you know, those kind of incentives.
That's outside.
That's
of our-
not us,
that's
yeah.
not us. That's not us.
Our impact fees aren't all that significant in Beaufort, are they?
They're not too bad. They're not too bad. I mean, to your point, you know, we have thousands of vested apartment units, that's why I think. To your point, that, you know, it has been, we have thousands of them that haven't been built, right? So, that have been approved, so we don't have a shortage of apartments, and they're mostly affordable. I guess accredited apartments.
I think, one place that we could maybe help a little bit, make it more affordable is. Like, for example, like the Pearl, like you mentioned, or some of the student housing. I'm not sure what the parking requirements are, but. You know, where they are is pretty walkable. You can walk to Food Lion, walk here, you know. So maybe just reduce the requirements to get enough volume for, you know, however many units they need.
That's a slippery slope though, Benji, because the kids are gonna have cars and they're gonna park them somewhere. And what that usually means is they are parking all over the neighborhood, or they're parking in the parking lot of the next door,
Business.
business. And,
Yeah,
you know, I don't think that's a good idea. I mean, Beaufort is one of the few places I've ever lived that really doesn't have a parking problem. But we could if we stop requiring parking for building.
yeah.
Affordability seems to be the type of housing that you're finding. And so what Kurt has been putting before us is diversity. And if we look at diversity, it just sounds like that may be one of the few ways that we could accommodate some kind of.
That's a deeper,
That's why.
that's the next topic, so that's the other way to, I think that's what Paul is suggesting.
But it's hard to take your development code and make that. And have that code. Make it like significantly cheaper to build something and still get right. I just don't think it's within our ability to make something affordable.
Yeah.
Well, it's always been that idea that we shouldn't be taking that into consideration too much when we're making decisions on applications.
Yeah, and I don't think that we're one of those communities that's making it impossible. So I don't know that, you know, to build affordable housing, just by virtue of the fact that, you know, our discretionary decision makers are just saying no to it, like some communities. So I don't know, it's something that we need to worry about from the standpoint of process. I think that's what we're all saying.
Well, or maybe another way to put it is the solution to solving the affordability, you know, true affordable housing issues is not with the planning commission, but with, you know, in the, you know, some of those other incentive areas like taxes, fees.
Government providing free ground.
If we're saying that the cost of construction for whether it's affordable housing or a top end house, it's the same dollar per square foot. Because the code is not,
Yeah.
we're not making a cheap code or an expensive code. So that's also, how much impact in these expenditures that you're talking about, these fees and stuff that you would. If it's $100 a square foot for the normal guy, are you gonna drop it down to $75 a square foot?
It's considerable, there's already something on
What's
the
the
books.
impact?
There's already something on the books for affordable housing, like, Garden Oaks, right, that's next to Salem Bay, that got, a significant reduction in impact fees, I think it's just about 2/3 of the impact fees per weight.
And that was a city.
It's a city already, the city
Oh,
already has
well, there's
something.
But the city did
Obviously,
that?
it's had some
There
issues
will be
there.
federal
Salem Bay,
subsidies
or,
there.
or, Garden Oaks,
There are federal subsidies,
yeah, that's an affordable.
you know, diminishing the rent for, you know, certain tenants that come in and qualify.
Yeah, but it qualified for the city's exemption because those are they're like a 15-year. And they had to provide the rents for each unit that were guaranteed for 15 years, so they got most of their back. But let's have issues. I'll help people.
Yeah.
So we already have that on the books. It was just.
That is on the books, that's part of
It's
it.
already on the books.
Okay.
It's just whether we want to do something.
So that
It sounds like
the price, if you will, square foot.
we would, if you were gonna build any project.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they just have to prove it, they have to guarantee that is locked in for such a period of time, and then the city, you know, waives that portion of that.
So just because something's ugly doesn't necessarily mean it's.
That's true.
Okay. Diversity, do we want to go on?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
So we're gonna table affordability for,
I think you kind of just
I
decided that.
I think we just kind of decided that we can't.
We can
Okay.
We can figure out what we can do.
okay, so we're not tabling it, we're saying no.
just say.
We're just saying we couldn't figure out anything to,
Okay,
we couldn't figure out how to improve the process any more than we already have.
Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break. And if you want to include my last comment, it probably summarizes what we just said.
I'm no longer the secretary.
Let me ask you a question.
But where are we headed next?
But I did like that comment.
Well, I think that's what we were saying.
Sorry.
So. Want to go ahead and move forward then to,
So, early in this, I pitched to you some lot diversity standards in the lot section too, and everybody had a lot of questions, so I
We
handed
have
it
a
out.
section for reading. Or it's a handout there.
Yeah, that's a handout I gave.
Handout or-
Two handouts on this, there's two handouts, well, there's actually three, because Libby's know a lot about it on her email.
So are you referring to a numbered page 4 of the handout?
There's one that says page 23 of 73, there's the other one that says page 11 of 77. And then there's the Libby's,
Got the, there's something else, yeah, I've got 23.
so we're gonna, just for clarity, we're gonna discuss this going into chapter 2 now, but we're not going to really address chapter 2 yet. Just gonna cover this section.
yeah, it's kind of connected to everything. Honestly, we didn't have too many changes to chapter 2 that I think we already kind of discussed.
You're looking at the single sheet 23 to 73.
We're back to back sheets, it was the way I.
23 to 24.
Printed two sides. Printed two sides.
Page 23 or page 24, that's okay.
Page 23 and then on page 11. And then an email from the.
We don't.
I look where it is. Yeah, that's it.
Fine. You have an extra of the 11.
We have an excellent out.
We can make a copy. How many do we need?
I don't have the 11. I have the page 23.
I've got 11.
Oh, maybe I just jumped in. Okay.
This is the Port Royal thing?
One for Laurel, one with mine.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. See.
I'll wait for him. To Polo code's very similar to our. All of this is good for work, yeah.
Oh, job.
Chairman,
Yes,
while we're waiting on Chris, may I make a general comment about these issues?
sure.
I think the code and the historic district have had, code has sort of stepped on the toes of Milner and the historic district in some respects, throughout the code. We worked pretty hard trying to correct a lot of that stuff. As far as diversity of housing types in the historic district, I think it's probably not a good idea to allow a broad cross-section of these different housing types other than single family. The reason I say that, we have the Bladen overlay. There'll be a project being heard on Wednesday for the townhouse project, small and behind urban market, created a lot of controversy. And a lot of opposition among some of my neighbors. but it illustrates the point that it's a different housing type. Now, I am supportive of that particular one personally, because it's in the overlay. The overlay was created expressly to permit these additional housing types. But at large, in the conservation and the preservation district, which are dominated by single-family structures with accessories, that's probably the way it generally should be. We've got the townhouses on Bay Street, you know, they haven't performed well. I don't think they've sold well, and you know, you could argue whether they look good or not. The older apartments on the point just seem to have blended in over a period of decades. And the ones, the townhouses on King Street, likewise, have just sort of tended to blend in. They're there. But I think it's important for the integrity of the historic district. And I'm not going to defend them too much because they need to get their act together, HPF in my view, about what they really want between the two districts. But to get too diverse, other than single family with accessory, is probably not a good idea, just in general. That's my thought.
Yeah, I don't know that this would actually have anything to do with historic district, but let me just try to explain it. I first came across this in Colorado. I was in Fort Collins and adopted this in the early 2000s. And essentially the idea for them, and what I had originally done, because we approved that in like 2017 where I went to Colorado, was an acreage requirement. They have big expanses of steppe, essentially a high plateau, there's no tree, there's nothing on it, right? It goes on forever. And so, you know, they were kind of doing it by acreage. But the idea is that if you're going to do a larger development, especially that you would have a mixture of uses in it, which would mean, you know, a mixture of price points and you know, it would mean that the city wouldn't just be a collection of large, like apartment complexes or large single family developments. It would be a mix, it would be more of an urban feel where you'd have to have some townhouses or maybe a little commercial or mixed use buildings. You couldn't do like a giant, like you know, 500 unit apartment complex. It would be a mixture. So it's been working pretty well there, and it worked really well in Colorado where I was at. Really helps everything. But I think since I did this, you know, Port Royal took on the same thing. So this has now kind of become popular around the planning realm, because it's the idea is that we're, you know, we're trying to create like missing middle housing. We're trying to create different price points, trying to get away from that monotony of development and this like commercialized development. So in the meantime, after we talked about this, I think in September, they've actually, I think, adopted or at least had their draft kind of go through their planning commission for something similar with their diversity of lot and living types. So what this means is it would be restricted to just a few districts. And, you know, I think I changed mine based on your discussion is that acreages don't really work here. It's the unit type count would work here. And then furthermore, we would only be looking at this in a few districts like RMX, T4N, and maybe T5 UC. And only if you got over like 21 or, you know, and basically there'd be different requirements for the amount of density you were requiring. So like Port Royal, it's 21 to 40 or 73 to 110. I was going 21 to 100 and 101 to 200. And basically the amount of diversity is based on your level of density. That makes sense. So the idea being is that, you know, if you want to make a walkable community, in the past, they were never like one developer came in and took 20 acres and split all apartments and then built all houses. They, you know, this was a smaller scale. So this is basically by code kind of requiring things to be split up a little bit. And then if you have a lot of density, you know, let's say you could still do an apartment complex, but even a Watercrest, which I think I wasn't here for, but I think your DRB and planning commission for those that were approved the townhouses there. So it'd be something like that. They have like 550 apartment homes, but they have some townhouses. So you know, it kind of breaks that up a little bit, or they could have commercial, or they could have, you know, and the same thing with the RMX, you know. Want to build an apartment community there, you gotta break it up. And so, that's the idea, is to kind of produce the missing middle housing. And so, now Port Well's gone even further. I think the two of us, the difference between what I was proposing before and where they went, is they're doing it per block face and different building types per block face, whereas I was doing it like different types of uses per setting. So, like, building different types. But the idea is breaking it up. I mean, one is fine. I think, you know, the idea is very similar. It's like, you know, not replicating a monotonous form and breaking the use and the types up to kind of create more opportunity and different, and just prevent the large scale complexes that you see that have been approved here from kind of replicating without some diversity and stuff. Does that make sense? And it's chapter 2 because that's where all the lot standards are, and it's the same with Port Royal. You know, there is this in chapter 2. So the page 11, 77 is in Port Royal. That's what they've kind of come up with. And page 23 and 24 is what I came up with for our code. So theirs is T3N and T3SN, and ours would be T4N, RMX, T5UC. Thought being is that, you know, those are, maybe if you wanted to consider that, is that those are the districts that would allow kind of multifamily housing for the most part and or large commercial development. So that's background.
What is the Port Royal's building types? Is it like single family? Duplex, triplex?
Yeah, they have like a cottage type, they have like it's similar to kind of what I've got here. I can have them send that over. This is what they sent. I think they're basically just replicating, because their code's almost the exact same thing as our code, so it's pretty much our code, like building type. Does this make sense to everybody? Hopefully.
So on our types, where we have single family, I guess I'm wondering why we're separating the single family rear loaded versus single family front or side. I guess that would be types.
Yeah, it was just a type of development, but yeah, you're right. I think that came from my old code.
Maybe you think you should combine them both to be just single family.
It could just be single family detached with. Because T4N, I don't think it's gonna allow that, so that's fine.
Another question is, how, are we kind of enforcing like proportion wise, like if you have 2 types, you know, how many of, like if you had 100, could they have just 5 of particular type and then 95 could be same type?
That's a good point. I think they do a decent job with that. Yeah. So requiring it on the same block.
So just take something that we can kind of picture, take Salem Bay, and that's a T4N subdivision.
T3.
Oh, that's a T3? Oh, so it's not gonna, this wouldn't apply to that.
Well, we could make
Well,
it block.
what's a T4 one that you're talking about? Give me a,
Would be like an apartment complex.
oh, you're just talking about doing this in apartment complexes,
Yeah,
not in single family.
I was more thinking of apartment complexes. Now Port Royal has basically extended it, is more.
I mean, I'm not advocating you do it in single family, but you're just saying in
Well,
multifamily.
T4 is still single family too.
You can do single family in T4N, but most people don't.
They don't because it's got the density in it, then you're not gonna use it for a low density development.
Yeah, if you look at our zoning map, it's, you know, it's just not, the T4N is just not really, you know, been used for any single family. So
Well, you wouldn't, because if more density is allowed, why would you buy a piece of ground that's priced at a higher density and put lower density on it. Okay, I get it.
Mostly just the historic district, you'll see single family and
Right.
T4 zones.
Yeah, right now
But
we
that's-
have a lot of T4.
But again, you
But
have
we don't
to
have
have
it
at least
applying to that
21
anyway.
units.
We don't have it applying to that anyway. We just-
You have, well, if it was over like 21 units then, but I don't think any project in the historic district's ever been over 21 units.
So I was just looking at the court real quick, they've got a lot of different building types. They have carriage house,
That whole area.
detached house large, detached house medium, detached house compact,
What are you saying?
cottage court, duplex,
By
townhouse,
the old.
mansion
by the
apartment,
old jail.
apartment house,
That whole
flex
block
building,
area.
That's
and
a
then Main Street mixed use.
Uh,
So they've got a lot.
No,
I mean-
T4H.
Yeah, so with
We have to define all those things, if you like, but that's fine. I mean, I think that's some good.
I like to think of it.
That's in Article 5,
What we're doing.
Section 5.1.
So, yeah, so I mean, this has been around a while and I think I will say it really works now. You know, I was dealing with like large scale development, you know, production development on empty land, right? So it's, this is more infill, so I mean, you know, I tried to change it, but, you know, Port Wells, you know, with maybe makes a little more sense, but, it might need a little refinement, maybe we just take out. You know, I think when we talked about this before, you all thought T3 and it's not really appropriate, so that's why I switched to T4, but you know, we could do that with some mixture of the two codes.
I would, I'm glad we're not doing it to T3, because I was just,
Yeah.
I didn't understand it there. And if we're not applying it to the HN, then
No, it would apply to T4M, but I can't imagine anybody's gonna build my apartment complex. T4M in the historic district. I mean, I guess it's theoretically possible. We'd have to put together a lot of property and do that. I can't imagine getting that.
So we need to think a lot more when we're thinking about the zoning areas of what the second life of properties are gonna be. Because basically we have limited land availability. And our zoning requirements are based on, I don't know what they're based on, quite frankly, right now, but you're gonna have a second life of a lot of properties coming up, just like the area that was just brought up of the old jail. Now, that's T4HN, but by the same thought process, there could be areas that could become T4N2. So I don't know, I just think we need to think about second life structures when we're thinking about what we're doing too.
So
Now, I don't
maybe-
know if that applies to this necessarily.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know that it does, but it may be some combination of the two, because I was trying to list all of our building types. But it's just like an idea that everybody thinks is a good idea, I don't.
Well, you know, I think of a lot of towns in the south, and I first noticed this when I went to law school in Atlanta a million years ago. The idea of using single family homes as commercial structures, so that the looks of the building doesn't really change that much, it's just the use that's changing, and you see that here too. With some of these things, so. I don't. Second life, what does that really mean? If the look of the building doesn't change?
No, but there'll be tear downs mostly, that's what's.
Okay, so you're talking about reconstruction,
Yeah.
Okay.
Construction. Not
like an old apartment community, that's just.
correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
or hotel becoming.
Or shopping centers.
Yeah, a shopping center, like,
But I can't think of, I'm trying to think of a reason why I don't like this. I guess I'm not coming up with any right now. You know, like we talked about before, and I said that I thought that we were being, we're trying to put too much diversity in certain things, but I think Kurt has reduced this down from our discussions to something that's more feasible in my mind.
so some of these large new apartment communities, yours,
They would all get triggered, you know.
They would,
Yes.
they couldn't end up just being all large,
You'd have to
buildings
have-
like you have over there, that one to the left of the Lowe's, that would have to include some townhouses and row houses.
Or even different types of multifamily, you know, that maybe four.
I keep driving by that huge complex on 170 before you get to the bridge.
On the right hand side.
Yeah, it just
I mean, it kept,
makes no sense.
it kept coming up when we were in the DRB, you know, with a big apartment. And the apartment next to Lowe's, that we did kind of like, you need to mix this up a little bit, and, you know, what we ended up was basically a empty lot for like a future commercial space.
Yeah.
And then the other two apartments like behind Walmart, and then the other one across the road behind the elementary school, you know, those had duplexes and some carriage house. At least the ones behind Walmart. So we, you know, we were kind of asking for it, but we didn't really have the code to kind of help us out. So I think this would help us out.
Yeah, and part of that is, I don't know if there's a way to put a condition in an approval that, you know, okay, great, you're gonna mix up the commercial and the residential. But like in a phase project, you cannot go to phase 2 until you've fully completed phase 1, including the commercial. You know, I don't know if there's a way to do that. Cause I think that's sort of a Habersham, they have that little bit of commercial in the middle. And then they're branching out into just a bunch of residential, and I think they said there's gonna be some more across the road, you know, eventually. But for a long time, there was not much of the mixing in the commercial.
So Kurt, what you're saying is these types, take for example, the facility that's next to Lowe's, the big apartment complex, right? So by going with these diversity, that complex then would change from 100% apartments. There would be townhouses or condos and apartments.
Well, they could all be apartments, so it just look, the building types would be different.
Okay, so could we have 3-story apartments and maybe a 2-story condo?
Or you could require the commercial there, or you could require, you know, a single family, or you could have first sale.
But we wouldn't have that regimental.
You wouldn't have that like Soviet block
Right.
like development, which I think no one in Beaufort likes. It's not Estonia. If anybody's ever been to the Eastern block, that's.
Is that open yet? They started renting?
Not open.
Yeah, they have.
I didn't think so.
Yeah, they
Have
have.
they?
Ribbon cutting about.
I haven't
They have ribbon cuts.
driven in through it, but I think it'd be great if everybody could kind of drive in and through it to get a sense of what it is.
Well, I think you did an okay job with that one. It's maybe the other ones that are less hard notes, so, you know,
Yeah.
like those are less successful. 1,000 has townhomes.
That's another one that essentially did the block.
Well, that's kind of my issue with them, is they've been like the far corner, like you don't really see the townhouses. When you drive by, you just see apartments.
I think that one, they.
It'd be better if they put it in the front.
Streets behind it, because they kind of just dead ends.
So what is the purpose of this? I mean, if you took a big apartment community like that and you required them to have a certain number of townhomes, for example, all that does is just mean you're gonna have some units that are higher priced units than others.
Well, it gives you a mixture of diversity and the architecture of unit types, and theoretically, it would kind of promote different price points.
Are you
But it
saying,
might end up promoting higher price points, because the lower rise buildings and the townhomes and so forth are gonna rent for more.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think it's more architectural than anything else.
I mean,
That's maybe not.
am I understanding you correctly that they have to look like an apartment complex, look like townhomes, look like single family homes? But as far as the business model, they could all be rentals
They
theoretically.
could all be rentals.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
building
Yeah.
form, yeah, but you know, I mean, what we were finding is they were, it was working where I was before. It was different than before. This nature is, you know, they would is they would do, tracks, different types of land, and they would sell it to other developers. Do the other track.
Did you mix and match too? Diversity in building types and or uses?
Probably.
That's why not.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
I don't know why not.
And that-
Type this could be.
That phrase missing middle,
Yeah, but
what is,
I don't
and
think
to me, that
applies.
implies a price point or something.
Yeah, I think the missing middle idea was really the idea of putting 2 and 3 plexes and carriage houses in single family. development.
Yeah, that's
That's what
where,
the
that's where
missing middle
Port
concept
is,
was.
as you can see, they got T3 and T3S, so they're going all out, so that's definitely going with the planning, I mean.
I don't-
And they're doing it for the whole state as far as like Oregon and stuff, but they're saying that all single family is now ended essentially. And that you have to do a percentage of, single family development has to be like, 10, 15, 30% has to be like duplex or townhouse. Or accessory dwelling unit with a house, so that's kind of where this has been going to provide. So I think we exempted it from your discussion before, I think we were gonna take out the single family.
So I don't think this, then, my own view is I wouldn't consider this as a missing middle option. I just consider this, as Mike just said, a diversity in design. But, so for example, just so I understand what you're trying to say there, if it's over, for example, 201 dwelling units, how many of the successive units have to end up being, say, townhomes? There you say a minimum of 4 diversity types shall be required in residential developments containing
I mean.
over 201. So how many, where does it tell me how many exact?
Yeah, it would be depending on.
If I've got a 300 unit apartment complex, how many, and I've got to have 4 different housing types. How many of those units have to be in something other than the large apartment buildings? Because I'll just say, I'm interested in building these 12 and 14 and 16 and 20 plexes. How many townhomes do I have to build?
Well, that's one thing that the Port Royal,
I don't
I think we also kind of said, I think we put 30% where I was before, like there was 30%, like. Only one use can be, or whatever, it can't be more than 30% essentially, so. But Port Royal didn't do that. We could do that.
Yeah, because the way it is right now, it doesn't tell
We
me.
can do it scaled by the lot percentage. Lot coverage. So if you do 21 to 40, it could be, you have to do 3 building types, so it would be like 33%, or you could set it at 50% of one type max. I think that's what's missing here. And then 41, you get 4 building types, and then, you have to have,
I think it's probably worth looking into more, because I don't know if you had 2 building types, I don't know if you necessarily want to do 50-50, like if you look at, Habersham. They have a bunch of single, but all the, other types are kind of like,
in one area.
yeah, grouped into a smaller area. So I think there's some better formula.
Maybe like any housing type must be at least 20% of the development or whatever
Yeah,
number,
we can do
25%.
We do 20%.
Yeah.
Well, but when you get to 5, then that's.
But we're talking about building type, too, we're not looking at housing type, right?
So a type, you're talking about the difference between a large unit building and a townhome and a detached or a 2 and 3 unit and a detached. It just seems to me, once you figure out those percentages, it also just seems to me when you get over just 200, because that's where we typically deal with. Most large apartment developers want to have in the neighborhood of 300 units. That's just what I've heard them say over and over again. That's where they've had an effective, that they can have a pool and a clubhouse and all that kind of stuff. So we're gonna see a lot of 400s and 500s if the land is still left for them. And then the question is, do you seriously think that they're gonna, does it maybe just saying that they divide them into smaller buildings rather than to say that they have to have some that are 2 and 3 unit buildings. Some that are townhomes. What about just saying that they can't all be 12 plexes and 18 plexes or whatever the sizes are?
Yeah, I
Is that
kinda
your
did
real
that,
objection is where you have these repeat 4-story 20-plex buildings or whatever the size of.
That's what I was kind of doing here. It said multifamily containing no more than 3 to 7 unit, or multifamily containing 1 to 7 unit. More than 7 units per building limited to 12. So you could do that. You could have different multifamily type.
Yeah, it's something where they try to do that, where they have, you know, a map that they have like 3 different sizes.
Yeah,
But it's all the same height, and then they just cut it, you know, into smaller chunks, and it still looks as a whole.
it's not as bad as when they just have all
Right.
one size massive
Yeah.
buildings.
Yeah.
But you're saying that, as far as you're concerned, that isn't even enough.
Right, exactly.
Seems like someone would need a definition in here types.
We could have used all of our existing
Yeah, I
building
guess.
types and then have. Yeah, further define.
I think our building types. Apartment home, especially one apartment house with one building type. One building type, so it's like. You can have one apartment house, you know, multiple times, and then you have to have 2, 3 units.
Or maybe we divide them into different sizes of apartment, complexes or whatever, like 12 unit, 4 unit, 20 unit, you know, and something like that is just, that alone would create some diversity.
So I'll say one thing about the New Hanover apartment.
Tell us where that is, because I don't know the name.
That's the one with that open field on 170 with the blue kind of trim.
Behind BW.
Okay, okay, the one we've been talking about.
Because I'm there all the time for, the inspections and whatnot, and they have, I think it's technically like 4 or 5 different apartment types. They've got 12 unit, 16 unit, 24 unit.
Oh, they do.
Exactly the same.
32,
They don't
and
look
they
very
all look
different.
exactly
Oh,
the
so
same.
they're,
You
so
can't tell.
they're the same colors, same everything, except they're different sized
Except
buildings.
some are longer, some are shorter, but I mean,
Yeah.
kind of driving by, walking around, it all looks.
No, that's why I thought they were all the same size. They're not.
Yeah,
They're,
not,
they just,
technically not, yeah.
they
but-
run
From a
together.
distance,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
if you change heights,
Well, they have 3 and 4 story,
Yeah, they do.
then that
That's
doesn't.
how they are.
Okay,
not really.
okay.
My bad.
If we want to get something that we want, we have to better define it, that's all. So
So everybody likes this idea, we just need a little more work, and this is what Port Royal. They presented this to the NERPIC, this exact thing, and. This exact ordinance, so it sounds like we just need a little more work on this and revise from that and present it maybe in a few weeks.
How many units are in that complex?
The total amount?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I want to say maybe around 200 something.
Oh, really?
It was in a development agreement.
Huh?
It was in a development agreement, it was in the.
Yeah.
Section of development agreement, so you didn't get the.
It looked larger than larger than 300, maybe.
Well, it just sounds like everybody likes the idea, it just needs a little more work, but take out.
Yeah.
More than single family, we need percentages for each and define building types.
it's probably more than just the types.
Well, and like the means of creating design diversity,
Yes, that's right. What?
the means or the
Oh,
methods of
Okay,
creating.
okay, got it. Like what we've been putting into the code already, talking about all day. Refer back to certain things.
Design and use.
Well,
I don't know,
I
but
don't think it's
use.
use, I think it's,
May not
we're
make
talking
a
about looks.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I don't know that an apartment developer is anything but an apartment developer. I mean, some do a mixed use development just because they're a developer and know that. There's not a demand for more than 300 apartments, but they got enough land for 300 apartments and. Some other big thing.
If they do a market
Yeah,
next to a park, it's gonna look different.
But I like the idea of taking them, requiring them to do a certain number like townhomes, something that's distinctive enough difference that you can look over there and say, oh, it almost looks like two different developments, right? That what we're sort of looking to do?
And if they want to rent them, that's fine.
Yeah,
We just want them to look like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, the only thing you might consider, if we're looking at a variety of different units or types within one complex, aren't we impacting the cost of the construction? For that,
Well, they're not.
for the complex?
Well, I mean, to say they were required to do, a 30% townhomes, that's gonna affect their density yield and, that'll. If they're paying this much for the ground just because they have to do this much of it at a lower density, yeah, that's gonna affect something. But,
They can always
But
build
the thing is like renting a house
apartment buildings.
versus buying a house. I mean, it costs so much more to rent a house usually than a mortgage on a house. So there's,
Not anymore.
well, but there's a limit to what could be reasonably be a rental charge for a house that's within a diverse development. And I guess that's my point.
And they are expensive. Those are expensive.
Okay, where do we want to go from there?
Well, it sounds like everybody likes the idea, it just needs a little more work, that's what I'm hearing. Come up with a percentage, come up with the building type and, just define both and, make sure that you actually have to build, a certain different type of use.
So it'll be on our agenda for our next meeting when we do chapter 2.
Yes.
I think those are main issues.
Those are the main issues, I think, we can move on to the rest of the chapter 4 if you want, or you can stop here.
I don't think it'd take us very long to get through the rest of chapter 4 because
We got through.
pretty much covered most everything.
No, we got to the other chapter.
I think there's the front part of the chapter that people may have questions or issues with.
Yeah.
Because we've covered it a lot already. And I did bring up the one issue, and that is the offsets that we have throughout the chapter. In the first part of the chapter, it has been corrected to be 18 inches for offsets versus that last part of the chapter. It goes to 24 inches.
Do you have the page numbers?
Yeah, I'd have to go through and find each one of them. So,
You're saying they should all be 18 or all be 24?
well, I prefer 24. If I'm looking at modularity, if I'm looking at modularity of construction and you're looking at 4-foot sheets of plywood, 24 inches makes as much or more sense than 18 inches, but from a vernacular and change in articulation of the facade, 24 inches to me is much more reasonable for seeing articulation than 18 inches. I don't know, any other comments? I just assume see them all go to 24 inches. And that can be just a corrective issue. Then as we go through, as we go through them, I get a little confused here because I've got a couple of different versions and I may have.
We
covered some
stopped to
of
put
them.
this one version, it's not sending anything.
I don't know, but I've got two right here.
I've
But
got only one.
so, yeah, correct, just correct. But if I'm going through on a page by page basis, page 3 of 56.
you can just tell us the section too.
Yeah.
It's a copy I've got has 72 pages.
Yeah, I'm looking at a copy of 72 pages.
Yeah, that's the one I'm using, 72.
Okay.
Section.
So that's different. Yeah, we may have already covered this. I don't have it marked.
Yeah, if you remember, we sent out another. We revised it, a new version. I think everybody decided that was not a good idea, so we've just been keeping the 12-1 and doing that list. After time, and that seems to be working pretty well. But as Nick is showing you, he's been updating this in
Yeah,
our draft code, and then, you know, we haven't really been formatting it, but we will again, so I think that makes a lot of sense.
We're not too worried about numbering right now, because that's very.
go to, just so I can check my two here. Can you go to 4.3.1? And then there's an A and a B. See, change. So, yeah, okay, so you've already got my change.
No, but you didn't, apparently you did get all of them there, because under that A where I had brought up that small village field, I said it's not a small village, it's a
Small city.
It's a small city, a small town.
But on
Yeah,
this list, it's on here,
But on his,
That's a summary one.
yeah, but I,
right?
but at the very beginning of this, you said the last changes were at the 12-1. We've talked about this since 12-1.
We have.
So do you have all of our changes that we discussed on subsequent occasions?
Yeah.
No, I mean on the one that Nick
I
put on the.
thought so, but yeah, we must not have made that change, but because that's the number 2 one on the sheet there. Do not refer to village, briefly as a village. Rather,
Small town,
city.
my little note says small town.
Yeah, and then, cause I would add another thing at C there where it says encourage architecture that blends harmoniously. Could we have after encourage architecture that and put that respects the historical context and or that blends harmoniously? And the reason I would like to have respects historical context is it may not always blend harmoniously, but that's probably the most important thing we do. Well, and then
Well, I thought you wanted C out, C, oh, no, that's C, that's a different C you wanted.
Yeah.
Further down.
Should we talk about Benji's suggested
Yeah, I was about to say,
definition
yeah,
first? I mean, I
yeah,
think
yeah,
we're
copy it,
passed by that.
we'll go back up.
Well, no, this is letter C, so just a couple.
Yeah.
Letters down.
And it's called findings on here, but that doesn't seem like the right title for it. So to speak. There,
I got it.
go a little bit there. Is Benji, is the term findings correct there? It seems like a better word there to.
No, it's not.
Yeah, we could just say definition or something.
Yeah. Yeah, something like that.
Vernacular architecture? No.
Or just call it vernacular?
I thought we called it low country vernacular.
Well, I'm just saying for the title,
That's what we should call, be the title, I think.
yeah,
Low country.
Low country vernacular.
Yeah,
and just take the word findings out, there you go.
and then
Low country, yeah.
you could just insert what I typed if everybody is good with it.
So Benji, what you sent us, some's red, some's blue.
So red is what's already typed, and I kind of added the blue part.
Oh, okay.
I think I might have taken out some things, but I don't know.
Yeah. So I thought it was interesting, you added the word prior to the advent of air conditioning, right? How does that affect the architecture?
So, in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
basically, you know,
Demonstration.
yeah, having, cross breezes through your house, having that single wide room. Single forms, so you could open one side and another, deeper overhangs, so you could shade your windows.
You could add diverse taxation also.
I always said that central air conditioning was the downfall of Western civilization. It caused people to go inside and watch what their kids were doing.
No, the cost of development of South Carolina and Florida is what it did.
You know, my parents never watched, they just kicked us out of the house. They never watched.
No, that's true.
In Minnesota, we did not have air conditioning. My parents had one in their bedroom. Let's say that.
Well, you're right, when we, same thing.
People will hang out on porches. The hottest part of the day.
Yeah, that's, and
I used
that's,
to drive to the country and see people sitting on their front porch. They should always wave, they wave.
well, my point is when they got central air conditioning, people quit doing those kind of things, like sitting on their porches.
I'm happy with what.
Yes. I'm a little concerned about authentic and material expression. Does that mean that use materials available in the low country? Right.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe we could clarify that a little bit, maybe like the no stone.
Yeah, no, and kind of goes back to what we have last with during parties, words. I mean, it's.
Well, I think that the authentic thing shows up in subsequent sections. It doesn't have to probably be fully elucidated here.
That's what I was thinking,
Yeah,
Okay,
I think we'll know. I think Benji's modified paragraph is cool.
Great.
yeah, cool.
I think it's not gonna. I would not look at it, no, I can't tell when.
Some mistakes sometimes, but it's like.
The only thing I had is in that first line, the architectural vernacular of Beaufort embodies the qualities found throughout, and I'd insert the word the historic low country. Other than that, I think it reads well.
What else?
Go to paragraph D. And then just one more down. So I guess it's actually, see what section it is, I'm sorry.
We're at 4.3.1, right, that's something.
Yeah, hang on a second. 4.3.2 ABCD.
Okay.
Once you got rid of that second paragraph there, I think you just combine one with the paragraph above, because it's not,
Yeah.
usually only divide that.
Yeah.
If you got two subsections.
Have a subsection, have two, you never have one.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And then in paragraph J,
It's a pretty English grammar thing, actually.
yeah,
You have like one subsection. Yeah, I guess.
yeah. And then in paragraph, so we're not getting rid of section one, you're just combining it, right? Then in paragraph J, I think we were.
Yes, you just put it back.
Yeah, you just put it right after scale, move the new right after that. Not letting you do that, I guess.
What are you talking about in J?
Oh, just the tense is wrong in one word. I'm just gonna get it corrected.
It's fine. But.
I guess you'll fix that somehow. You just won't let you do it. Yeah. Oh, you got it. Okay.
You know, laws were probably not so voluminous when people had to handwrite them.
Under J,
Like air conditioning.
oh, we got J. The word lend, it should be lend, I think.
Which word?
The third line downward says LENDS, that should just be LEND. And then a little b there. Get rid, little b, I don't get the or water table there. It says low country buildings should incorporate proportional raised foundations. And then it says or water table. What do you mean by that? Doesn't make any sense.
No.
No, what, that's an architectural term.
Yeah, that's when the brick goes up to a certain height, you say like.
Yeah, but when it says should incorporate proportional raised foundations, you're not gonna raise the water table.
No. That's an architectural term.
Water table?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. There, you establish on the exterior of building and historic structures, a water table with a brick ledge or a stone ledge. And it's called a water table.
Oh, okay, all right, as long as somebody knows what it means.
That's not a question.
Is that like a pencil mark?
Now we know where we got you here.
Um, While we are on J, I kind of want to propose a D, a new D. And that would just say, maximizing airflow through single room wide floor plans.
Just put on for D.
For a new D, yeah.
Say it again, Benji.
Maximizing airflow through single room wide floor plans.
Yeah, but they're all gonna have.
I'm sorry, I couldn't say that.
Benji, say airflow through.
Through single room wide floor plans.
Ransom windows.
I think Benji read his boss's book. His principals wrote a book on ventilating homes in the south. They published, they had a beautiful book.
Southern vernacular? What's it called? Contemporary Southern vernacular. Southern.
But point of information, most people do not know that when if you go out to Land's End and then go towards the end of Land's End to the point by the inlet mouth of the river there. About halfway down, there is a beach house that is 2 stories, 2.5 stories. That was designed by Frank Lloyd Wright. And it has a center chimney. And when you're inside of that beach house, he designed it so that there could be cross ventilation and airflow throughout the entire cottage on both floors anytime, and it would keep the whole thing cool. And he did that through the use of a fireplace that goes up through the center. And there's what do you call them? Louvers on the back, fireplace that you can open and close. And then you have the windows. And if you open and close those things the right way, the wind that comes through there, even on a day that's still, because the fireplace creates a vortex
Yeah.
for traffic to go through. And it's the only one I know in existence anywhere. I had the ability to go inside of it.
Is it occupied now?
Yeah, so. But anyhow, that's.
Yeah, let me just see here one.
We made most of the changes at the beginning, 4.4, I think like 7. I think we dealt with your intents, we got, between the words that and blend. We did the historical conduct. The subsection. Lettering, numbering, left fixed waiver. Common yard and 4.48.
One of the things that you do and
You thought that sounded like horizontal property?
well, go back just for a second, but sometimes we mix up the numberings. I mean, for example, when we got a capital A, B, C, D, F, the next thing under it we need to just be consistent. We either go to a small A, or in some places we go to numbers.
I think
And,
that's because of the system. But I'll ask you.
and I think we just need to be consistent throughout, you know what I'm saying? Because we did that in the other code. So that's sort of like the last level of review you do. You have to go through it.
Fix all of that.
Yeah. Do that. Okay, Brett, so I won't point those out. Our committee, but there are a few of those. On that one you were just going to, where you got at 4.4
4A, common yard.
4.4.A, yeah, you were just there. I didn't think that the word common yard was a word there. I mean, I always think of a common yard as something that's shared.
Well, it's because the front yard.
Aren't you really referring to the front yard?
It does talk about the front yard being created.
Yeah, so I just painted the front yard. Yeah. There you go. There you go.
I call my front yard.
Have my little picnic on your common yard.
And English history.
Southern vernacular, common has a whole different meaning.
Oh, yeah. What is the meaning?
If you're common.
Oh.
What about like
No.
old comments?
That's different.
That's
A person being
Yeah.
common. If you call a person common, that's what they want.
I fit right in.
When you go all the way down to H there, if you see FGH, that, let me see.
4.4 still?
Oh, no, I guess I'm in the, I'm outside of, I'm at 4.5. If some may have some comments at 4.4.
Pardon me. Sorry. Oh, yeah. I think it's a nice building.
But you changed the color. Didn't you?
That color, yes.
Yeah.
I never got the yellow personally. Looks better now in my view.
I don't have a comment, give it to them. Page 1/4, so.
But we still have inserts.
I had some comments on the sketches, to clarify the sketches. These elevations they made on page 10. Opposite stoop and balcony. And the elevations and the plan views, just clarify them.
Yeah, we need to go over those again. Definitely. Yeah.
The same thing, but are over on gallery and column and arcade, no, arcade too. Just clarify those sketches.
Those are bad.
Okay, now
I
we're
mean, probably
4.5.
numbers.
Yeah, I guess we should be updating these. But
I mean, we need overall better examples, like the Starbucks example, we're pitching that. So we work on the examples, the pictures anyway, and sketches, so.
Yeah, the pictures that you have are good. It's
Right.
when we don't,
Sketches that are.
yeah.
Yeah, the sketches are hard to.
well, we don't like drive-throughs, so it's a perfect example of not liking drive-throughs, because it'll take you 30 minutes to get. Slow.
Start with the picture, just doesn't. Should pay what you pay.
Starbucks store to build that somewhere downtown.
What is it, Starbucks downtown?
No, they were gonna build one out by the Publix.
Well, they have
And they
one
couldn't
now
get it.
at Harris
They
Teeter.
couldn't get it through through anybody to, because of the drive-through out there, but. And then they put it inside of the Harris Teeter instead of putting it outside of the drive-through.
It seems to be quite popular.
Well, they got a bar.
The bar, yeah.
No, but, well, The Starbucks looks like it's more popular than a bar, but maybe it's the time I shop.
So, yes.
With the
Don't spend enough time in bars.
No, I don't, I do not spend a lot of time with bars, that's true.
I think we can also be careful with how we format these with pictures. Kind of reads that top right sketch. It's gonna be pretty. But
Oh, yeah.
it looks like it's just saying that picture.
So when you get to 4.5.h, stop at 4.5.h. In the, I
It's
guess it's,
electrical.
yeah, there, didn't we talk about that 10,000 was a little bit small to call it a large?
Yeah,
footprint
I think
building?
we did. I think we were gonna go back to
2,000,
20,000.
20,000
It was 20,000.
or 20,000, yeah. 20,000.
I don't think we're not gonna. We're gonna go back to separating out the transect and the traditional zones and design. So go over, say, well,
Leave this last. Sentence or.
no, I think it's fine.
Question on 4.5.6, row home / townhouse. Letter capital B, special requirements. And then there's a one and a 3. And the 2 is all that. Then 3, small b. Row homes are not permitted in E4 and A. And then I have a note saying Depot Road in partisan area.
Well, that's where most of the A is located around Depot Road, that section around the old railroad depot.
Right.
That doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? We can change that.
That,
There's only like 20 lots in the T4NA. I mean, I don't know why they can't have townhouses. Doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, no,
Might as well just remove it.
I have an X through it.
it seems like a good place for town.
This is.
I know, but this is it. It's the entire city. It's all like packing houses and industrial buildings.
Different plan.
Pickle plant. That's it, that lime green, so yeah, let's remove it. Let them townhouse it up.
Well, then get rid of A.
Is this a checking out that's those finished ratio requirements? Is it? Or can we talk about certain types of uses? Giving people an ability to not have to meet the fenestration requirements, because the thing that comes to mind is that medical building that nobody wants to build. And them having a fenestration requirement, I mean, for medical buildings, does it make sense to give them an opportunity to get an exception out of that?
I think that it
Okay.
does make sense, but I think they should have to do something else. Save the money on the windows and preserve the privacy of the people, but have to put some better landscaping around that building.
I would just
Living walls.
general, not because you still have to specifically approve that. Just make a general, it's not, because you have to make a discretionary decision on that. No. Specifically talk about.
Yeah, there's a lot more going on.
Right, just, maybe hospital or city.
Well, also anybody that wants an excuse for complying with the fenestration requirements, and they have a good reason for it, such as privacy or whatever it might be.
Well, what I was getting to is it possible to identify types of uses where the fenestration just doesn't make sense?
I think that they ask for an exception.
You know,
I think that's,
Well, that-
why would we wanna lay that out in advance?
Do we decide the exceptions then?
You go up down to 30%.
Huh?
You go down to 30%, so maybe we should revisit that section and maybe give you a little more flexibility on that. You know, maybe give you a little, because it doesn't make sense, it makes sense for you to give a design waiver on that. The zoning board, although it makes it really hard for a developer to go to the zoning board and to go to you.
Yeah, I think we should try to limit the number of things like that that go to the Board of Adjustment. And they're created within our code and an exception that we can allow, or if we have to specify what it is, so it's so we're not just usurping the statutory authority that they have and taking it from ourselves. We just have to write it as under certain circumstances, you don't have to do such and such. We call it exception then. Let's see,
Or a waiver or something.
in the historic. It's there.
May consider design and substance of list requirements to include in order to hire cases where the applicant proves the assertion. So you've already added that.
Yeah, so it's already there, okay.
What did we say? Let me read that.
But you said or higher percentage, you want
A
to,
window of
you want to add that?
type or door.
You could also do the specific.
Coatings.
You want to add some more to
Don't
it?
move it yet. I want to see it.
No, not necessarily.
I think it's fine the way it is.
I think it's fine with it. You're covering the privacy.
Transparent fenestration shield. Might be-
We were gonna.
We had the whole discussion on this already, I think.
Of this requirement includes panel glass. In case of the upside, rooms and the critical functional.
And I wouldn't want it to turn into a floodgate, so that everybody, comes up. Cause that's people will react, right? Oh, well, you're gonna work that,
Because I don't think we decided.
And
So we probably
we
do
add
have to decide
light
that.
industrial exception on.
Yeah, we'll have to analyze on their little sheet there, we just never actually did.
Okay. Otherwise, it's, I think, like a whole section.
Yeah, I think we're gonna, are you okay with re-separating out conventional and transect again? That's what we were just gonna go back, right? So we can. Yeah, light industrial, we haven't.
Just for the wet, the fenestration or the whole.
It's the whole.
Yeah, we were
All
gonna
materials.
design change where.
So. Using light industrial uses or districts, uses.
Uses.
Well, it would be in the LI district.
So,
Anything-
Well, just by way of example, because I was just driving by today, so we were talking about a little bit, that tire store that's, right before you get to the Lowe's there, it's a nice looking building. But the facade that is along the street, you turn to go back to, I don't know where it comes, there's no windows there, and those are on the opposite side of where you enter the garage. And normally that would require some kind of significant windows there, because it's got a major street frontage.
But it's the back of their base.
I know it is, so I'm just saying that's, to me, is a perfect example of
Yeah.
where you don't want to require windows there, and I don't know how the code intended to deal with that or would deal with that in the future.
I think this was how we were planning on doing it, but then
Because that would
anything
be
in
a-
the light industrial district would not have to.
But that's not an industrial.
It's a very
district.
small district. It's not.
But we have to allow for that kind of provision in the future.
Yeah, you would, I think if that came up, you would be using this to say,
You would,
okay, well, you got some bays, maybe we can think of,
so it would be where the applicant proves that these are critical privacy functions.
or maybe critical functional. Yeah, we were gonna word.
You don't want to see what's going on the inside.
Maybe
That's what
there'd
you're
be a
really
security
getting at.
function. It's some need.
Well, I mean, in that instance, it was that there's no value in seeing what goes on the inside.
Well, they need a solid wall to work against from the inside.
Well, that as well. So it's some kind of practical function.
Yeah, Paul.
Well, the tire store is a good example, and what they did is they put up a hard frame type of lattice and they planted.
It looks really good, yeah.
And it does look nice, and I mean, they could have put spandrel glass in the wall if that's what you would prefer, and that's what I think you improved on the Aldi, right?
Yeah.
Right,
The
spandrel.
Aldi has some spandrel on the side coming in. So I just think you have to give developer a degree of flexibility and choices to either go with a landscape panel, the Walgreens out here has that same treatment. There are a number of places that do that. I think it's important to provide some degree of flexibility on that, so.
And that's all I'm just saying is that it isn't just a privacy issue, it's just the fact that it's a functional thing, there's nothing going on the inside that we want to see. Who wants to see the backside of a bunch of freezer cases? Right?
Or even worse, all these things.
And no one, the general public doesn't know any better. They think it's a nice looking building.
That's right.
It just doesn't detract from the neighborhood out there one single bit. It looks fine.
Okay.
It's an architectural issue.
That's right.
And a transom window has a certain opacity to it. And the higher the opacity, of course, the less you see it. Functional buildings like the tire store or any other place, even the hospital, that has a bunch of junk in there. From an architectural standpoint, you don't want to see it there,
That's right,
you know?
right.
Because you're just gonna see junk piled up against that window.
So it could be,
So it's common sense kind of an issue.
so it's function, privacy, and what other wordsmithing is, security, yeah.
What else does everybody have?
I had one on 4.5.7.
What page?
Page 25, yeah. I'm thinking we probably need to change that sketch in the plan view, because we were talking about 70% needs to be, entrance. And I don't think that sketch in the plan view is representing. Yeah, and that picture there,
I don't know, probably use that picture for something that we have, the portraits instead of the, whatchamacallit.
Oh, we decided on that.
I think
I'm sorry, I was going back to 4.5.6 about forecourts. I'm looking at Kurt's list. Did we, I thought we decided that we didn't want any forecourts.
I thought we revised the forecourt back. That's what I did there.
Okay, so this phrase, do we want to encourage forecourts permissional frontage types for these building types? So what is the resolution that we reached?
I think the resolution is right here, we've kind of struck four courts out of the row homes section,
Okay,
right? There it's stricken out. What about the other one? 4.5.
I don't think we did resolve it. That's what I was in.
okay.
That's a good question. I don't remember. I think you're right. I think we meant to talk about it sometime.
I think we put it back in after we did, because of what we had seen as Habersham, remember when Kelly,
I remember seeing that, but we didn't, I don't know that we thought that that looked that good. I think that, there was discussion among the, and I think there was a difference of opinion. I
That's
personally
true.
is not in favor of what we saw as a forecourt in Habersham, but Libby might have had a different
Strikes me as a kind of thing.
point of view.
Yeah, I don't like it either.
We overrule, they don't work.
Well, it's a majority rule here, so.
But we still have the courtyard in there.
More like the courtyard.
So is there a picture of a forecourt? So it's on there, 4.4, the lot, that big, this picture is that.
It's not gonna cover 70% of the facade of the front.
I think the right example that stated inappropriate, that's sort of kind of what we saw at Habersham, where it comes out rather than going in, right?
Right,
I mean, I guess if you have a forecourt and then like individual porch entrance, like kind of like a combination to meet that 70%, then I could see that being okay.
That's what they had too. They had a forecourt and then they had like entrances
that-
to a front porch section too.
But it, like, it
Sort of.
wasn't big enough. It looked like there was like somebody had like a chair there. All they could do was
It's
sit
just
there and
storage.
smoke. You know? Don't want to encourage that.
Well, there was no air conditioning, what else were you gonna sit outside? It's hot.
Maybe they'd have more room if they had a 5-court.
Yes, some people I think did have a bicycle or something.
It didn't look good, but it just, that's the thing.
Yeah.
But I guess, I mean, I feel like maybe we could keep it if they do, like, the porch. Big one.
Well, have a real porch and make it big enough, like 8 feet.
So is that inappropriate picture there on the right, is that a forecourt?
Is that an appropriate one?
I mean, not really by the definition we've got in there.
Pardon?
That's
Not really by the definition we've got in there.
See, the one on the left, you see stuff like that in Florida all the time. That's very popular.
Is she from Florida?
University of Miami.
I don't know if she's in Florida.
She went to the University of Miami for architecture. Pretty good architecture program. I'm kind of indifferent to it, but it's caused a lot of issues. That's why we were gonna get rid of it.
Remember, design review board, we had issues for it, like a lot.
Yeah.
I'm okay with getting rid of it.
I'm okay with getting rid of it.
That's what we originally
Okay,
suggested.
I go get rid of it.
I think Libby was really pushing it, and I think she kind of convinced everybody, and now we're back. We're back to.
Is that the example in Guilford of what we?
Six or four.
That's a forecourt?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's like that.
Or
Okay,
what is it?
it's
Is
in
it a forecourt? Is it a?
I like it, but it's 5, 6.
It's a hybrid. That's a hotel.
Back to getting rid of it.
Yeah, that's the Emerald Stays. across
I like it.
I don't see it as big.
Yeah.
Oh, is that operative as a, is that the self-service hotel?
Yeah.
Okay,
I have a relative stay there. I wasn't. It's very plush inside.
Really?
Very cool.
it just doesn't, I don't see a lot of activity there.
That's because all the parking's in the back.
Okay.
You're right, it doesn't look like anybody's ever there.
Yeah.
All the parking is in the back, so.
It turned out nicely.
Yeah.
That is a good use for.
Well, do we want to go back to the original suggestion, which was?
But that is a commercial
I mean, that's a good example.
with like different, I think.
Thanks.
And, as opposed to residential.
But this house also reads like a single family. Or maybe a duplex.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
I think if somebody really wants a forecourt, they could ask for it as,
What was the
much
problem with
larger.
the forecourt? I mean, that's an attractive looking.
Well, we end up with massive buildings with tiny entrance.
Oh, you just didn't like the one on the right, which is,
Yeah.
No, this one looks good.
I mean,
you gotta enter the building somewhere. So you would prefer entering it under a what?
a porch or.
Not that,
Formal courtyard.
not that. You just don't like that. We just know we don't like the thing on the right.
We don't like things that are too small. It's for scale,
Yeah.
and that invite things like bike storage and smoking chairs as the only possible thing you can do with them.
It's sort of the same thing we were talking about on a house, where it doesn't have a porch, it just has
Yeah, like
a porch, they call it a porch, but it's not big enough for anything.
Right,
Yeah.
It's really just, it's for circulation.
Yeah.
There's no place for like.
Okay, forecourt, yes or no? No.
no,
All right,
Unless it's designed like the other one there.
Or if somebody wants to have one, could we give them an exception to, you know, like if for a commercial space?
Yeah, it could be may be allowed.
Yeah.
Instead of getting rid of it all.
I mean, the one on the left is attractive.
But it's so great.
I mean, I'd start like if there's multiple entrances for each unit and each unit wants to do a full court, then I can see that being okay.
So how about we generally,
I think the discussion is not generally getting rid of forecourts. I think the discussion is getting rid of them for the apartments, houses, right?
yeah,
So leave it
Let's
as
just- yeah,
here,
let's leave it
but
here
go
and
back
then
down
remove it.
to where we had the apartment buildings and
That's a
then
good
get
point.
rid of it there.
Very good point.
okay.
It was 4.5 7.
And check in the row houses.
We want to allow it for the row home
I
and
think we had already gotten rid of it.
okay, so eliminate it for both apartments and row homes.
Yeah, it has those.
I mean, is the idea for apartments that they would just have one entry? Or could this building type have
You
multiple?
could have it.
It says formal entry courtyard. I think that's what.
I think that's more what we.
But I mean, could we say like stoops and fourth courts are accepted for individual entry units?
I think let's just, I'm sure you could, if someone proposed it, but.
The townhomes there look great.
So should we get rid of stoops on that?
You wanna allow the forecourt in the townhouse?
I think so. But I'm back on the multifamily.
Mike, what do you think? You're an architect. You think a forecourt makes sense for a
I think we
townhouse?
get rid of stoops here too.
No, well, the stoop, if we were trying to make these individualized, like.
That's what I was saying, like, should we like specify if we wanna do individual entries, then stoop would be, you know.
I think you could just leave it. It's not creating a problem.
Yeah, Ashley Point's apartments, right? We saw those. Yeah. Behind the food line.
Hmm.
What's it called?
Oh, you mean that?
I think forecourts can be acceptable, but I go along with what you're saying.
Yeah. But, so you could already.
You mean
If you
that
wanna
one
do
to
it-
to an individual unit?
Now that one,
That's a porch.
that I like, cause
That's a porch.
because you got porches and
Oh, stoop. All right, let's just get rid of it. Done with the forecourt. I didn't know what forecourt was before I came here.
I know it did.
it's never reminded me.
But now I never heard of it. Never thought about it.
So we're leaving stoop?
Yeah, I guess so. Or you wanna, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, do we wanna see this?
All right, we'll get rid of it. He does say start.
Yes.
Fine. And then we'll
And then
Townhouse.
townhouses.
Yeah.
be online.
That needs to be-
Over anything else else?
Yes, minor buildings.
Is that ever resolved?
I don't believe it was. We had a presentation last time, but I don't think we resolved it in discussion.
I changed the language a bit, but we talked about eliminating the requirement in RSS. Let's go down. And it makes sense to eliminate that and build this. Let's get rid of that. That's my notes.
What page are you on?
Page 35?
I'm not sure I've got an updated copy of it.
36.
It's 3.5.
Can you go back to 34 before you get there?
4.59.
Back to 34 on the wall, all articulation. Right. When did you revise that to 35 feet? Step plane. After stepping the wall plane at 24 inches. And you have to delete the rest of that. And or landscaping can accomplish the same thing. No, we decided that also.
You're right, we did.
Yeah.
And then under A, do you have landscaping in there? Yeah,
I just,
you delete landscaping features.
for Paul's comment that he didn't think he had an updated thing. This is, none of us have this. This is the work in progress for staff.
Okay, I've got it. Well, I've got it. It's not all red. Pardon. It's got what's on the side thing.
I go to
It
page,
should say are adequate buildings for line buildings.
This one's, yeah, not much.
and I go to page 36.
Okay.
On page 36,
Fine.
10,
And yes.
so 4.5.9 point B point 10. And then letter C and letter H. And C and H. I feel like C and H are kind of contradicting each other. And maybe we'll just get rid of C.
Eyes aren't good enough to read screens. Where are you?
So
You compare
if
C and
C,
H.
C is talking about like changes in massing is strongly encouraged.
Changes in massing. For the liner.
Box-like structure with no changes in facade planes are inappropriate. And then long facade shall be broken into small individual express modules. So that's C, but then when you get to H, it says liner building shall match each other in terms of fenestration patterns, architectural detailing, overall massing and rhythm. So I don't know if it's maybe contradicting each other. Maybe we just get rid of H.
So they're contradicting each other.
You know, it's just
So because, it's saying that the other H is saying that, one of the buildings should be similar to each other. And they can see a little larger story. Whereas the other one's more specific, just, box-like structures. I see what you're, now I see what you're saying. Okay. Now I see what you're saying.
So I think the way to address it is, what do we want? Do we want what's in C? Do we want what's in H?
Probably H should go personally. Yeah, I'll leave it to the architect.
that's what I was thinking too.
Thought H should go. Yeah. I think you want Steve.
That H.
Back up to A when you get done. And where you have at, the wall plane at 24 inches. A. And you already took out landscaping stuff there, so, okay, that's. Yeah, all right. question I had, if you go down to F, you talk about 12 foot in depth. And then on 13, you go to 24 feet depth.
Yeah, I think we were wanting to add more space. 12 feet's probably not big enough.
Yeah, like coffee.
Not along a major street.
Oh, you have a lot of stuff. Like that.
Well, I'm just, first of all, I apologize, I'm not feeling my best. First, not to get away from all in this section, did I understand you to say my copy still shows that you're requiring liners in RMX? Is that struck?
We just struck.
That's struck. Okay. Then, I think all of this sort of stems from the conversation we've been having. I think, I'm not sure I understand, the 2-story is still a requirement in significant intersections. I think that's a significant issue, a problematic issue. I don't think it's worked, in Beaufort thus far. Only in a larger market does it really work.
We did this pedestrian activation thing for under 2 stories. The facade facing the front should be activated for pedestrians to include but not limited to an activated plaza 24 feet in depth. 24 might be a little much, might be a little too heavy for the plaza itself. I mean, 12 might be appropriate if it was a landscaping buffer between the patio and the right of way. You could do that. You could have an 8 or a 10-foot landscape buffer. We were trying to keep it all, so you want to go 20 maybe?
Well, that's where I was trying to, I'm not sure that meets the definition of what Jeremy was showing us on those buildings that we found attractive, or that I thought we found attractive in Charleston. They didn't seem to have a 24-foot patio. I think the patio, again, the key word is flexibility. If a patio could be on the side of the building, as was illustrated by Adam on that corner illustration that you saw. It could be in the front. I think that you just need to permit some degree of flexibility in how that might be done. The entranceways, I'm not sure if it's clear in here, whether an entrance can certainly be directly off the front, certainly, but it might also be off of a plaza that's on the side of the building, which accomplishes the same thing. It gets pedestrians from the public right of way into the property and into the building. Again, just a range of setback would be appropriate. I do have one question about the frontage build out. Right now, 75%. We've added language that talks about says minimal gaps between buildings. That's fine, but you get to a practical problem. You don't want to completely hide the buildings that are in the rear, I don't think. I would like to propose that you maintain a 75% frontage build out, but you might permit a 60% or 65% frontage build out if it's accompanied by a side patio, a side plaza, which accomplishes the same goal, I think. Doesn't necessarily have to be covered. It could be, you could have a story tree in the plaza and the patio, which blocks the view of what's in the back just as effectively and perhaps even more pleasantly than just, you know, an ongoing facade.
Right.
So I would ask if you
Well,
want,
I think also you get air, down here, you get airflow
well.
through some separation of the buildings. And that's good. I think the patios are good. I'd rather see landscaping with, understory trees, than that. I think your flexibility on the size here or the setback, I think 18 to 20, 18 to 24 feet probably, would work for flexibility.
Would you, we're sort of late in the day, would you, I know there's gonna be another meeting in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
On this particular issue, if appropriate, I could get to Adam and draft, you know, a little bit of a red line on this and submit it, very shortly to you, if you would consider that. I'd be happy to do it.
Yeah, I think.
Give it to Kurt. But the other thing I think would be really great if you could do it is, I mean, some of the images that he showed last time were okay, but I'd rather see some more concrete examples instead of the SketchUp stuff. If you have anything like that, because, to me, the patios down here, the patios with, under and overstory trees, are much more appropriate than the hardscape. And,
I agree with that. So, I mean, so on the illustration that he prepared, what you're saying is show more detail in terms of what a patio might look like with overstory built into it, that kind of thing.
I think that'd be helpful.
Or if there's a picture, maybe
Yeah, or
even from another
Maybe even a
area.
picture of something
Yes,
else
that would probably even
to
work better.
illustrate the point.
That would even work better.
I'll do that.
And I agree, the separation between buildings, we're trying to break up the masses of the buildings already. Everything we've been talking about today is, breaking up the massing of the buildings. And I think that when you're looking at stuff like you're talking about here, where you have a high density of buildings in a certain area, breaking up the massing of the buildings is a lot better. Plus, it provides for that airflow that you just have to have in some time.
Thank you. I'll do that. I will do that and submit that through Kurt for consideration next time. All right, if y'all forgive me, I'm gonna go. Yeah.
We wish you would. We don't.
Yeah.
We will.
I'm fine. I've just got.
We'll have people come in and spray your area.
Yeah, I'm not really sick. All right. Bye-bye. Thank you. I'd like to see you.
Yeah, and the front entry of buildings, I think he brings up a good point. The side entry of buildings, probably, especially off of a courtyard, is a lot nicer than just making something have a front entry all the time. It really depends on the plan.
Yes, sir.
Is there anything else that anybody else has, other than that next meeting?
All vote.
Did we make a decision previously about the 2-story?
I think we were gonna allow the 1-story if they do the pedestrian activation, all this time.
Okay,
My next corrections go to page 39. If anybody has something before that.
And then change that to 20,000.
What's on page 39 that here, number 5? Or 5.7.B.5. Yes. We have a definition of a single block. Building footprint shall not be larger than a single block.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Probably block, but not single block.
Yes. Block. What's a block?
I think you just have to define block.
Block shall be no 100 feet wide.
Maybe in front of a block, you say city block or something of that nature. Is that where, let me ask a question, is that what we're trying to say?
I think that's the goal, yeah.
Because a city block is gonna be different for every
Right.
block that you have. I think what you're trying to say is you don't have a building larger than the block that it's sitting on. I don't know. I'm not sure why we're saying that.
Yeah, floor area building shall not cantilever, but maybe that should be what. Yeah. How's that? That basically is what we're trying to say, without saying the other. That makes sense.
My next thing is on number 8 below that. Yeah, we say a large footprint building shall provide quality architectural design. I don't know what that means, so I just took it back. Do we want to say a low country vernacular
Yeah,
architectural design? Is that what we want to say?
that's what we, yeah.
Because we've defined it now, so.
I don't know how many low country vernacular features would be in a large footprint building.
Well, that's for them to figure out. I'm sure Vince could come up with a lot if he had a contract big enough to do it.
Oh, yeah, very good.
Go down to 10C. And that's another place where instead of, it says 2 feet. It's already got the 2 feet in there, but I just put 24 inches instead of 2 feet. Makes more sense.
So could you say it again?
Oh, did you see where it says 2 feet right there?
Yeah, it says 2 feet, just put
24
24 inches. And I don't have anything until I get on page 41. If anybody's got anything else.
Just ask ChatGPT for examples of a typical Walmart low country vernacular store. There you go.
Probably broke it.
Probably broken. That one got, I don't know. It didn't do. It didn't come close.
Is that a real store or is it a fake made up store?
Yeah, well, they're fake made up. I was just, it didn't come up with it.
Let me ask you a question. The louvers that hinge at the top and come out, that are kind of like the islands, is that not low country vernacular?
It's like,
Yeah. You know what I'm talking about?
Talk about. What would you talk about?
Caribbean look, but it's,
Yeah,
The shutters?
yeah, the shutters. You see them around a
Yeah.
lot. And you see them on some of the older houses.
The Bahamas shutters?
Yeah,
The ones that come out of the wall and cover the whole window.
yeah.
Whole thing.
You know, I mean, they block,
They block a
they
lot of
block the
light.
view, they block the light.
Well, I wasn't asking about the quality. I
Is that low country?
Yeah, I mean, we
didn't
don't,
know if that
we
was
don't,
considered low.
I see why people like them, but.
Do they have Matera?
I don't think HBM considers. I don't know. I don't know.
The Bahamas.
Under structured parking,
No, we didn't talk about. We didn't touch structure.
for structured parking. I've designed a lot of structured parking. And I have repaired a lot of structured parking. But, and in communities where we're trying to get historical architecture done, I usually put, do a design that is historically, to some degree, historically appropriate. Now, parking decks, if you've never designed one, you don't know this, but parking decks have to have, I think, it used to be 60% opening on the around any portion of the building that you have cars in for fumes. So they have to have 60% openings on those. You can't have them enclosed or you have to ventilate them. There's all kinds of other things, but I think from an architectural standpoint, I would think we would want to put something in here like we do in the other sections, architecture, colon, and then describe the rest of the information.
Like the low country architecture.
Yeah, something to that effect.
So they, I mean, living in Fort Lauderdale, I've seen a lot of parking garages and all kinds of weird and crazy designs. And this opening thing, some things are really nice. Now, Fort Lauderdale tends to be mid-century modern in design elements, but there's a lot of ways to do it for those openings, through like plants, you can breeze block. You can use like bars, the decorative looking bars. I mean, it doesn't have to be open. And I don't know about safety, they need to be reinforced too, don't they? In case of crazy robbers driving through the walls.
That's
They're never that open. You're still gonna have a wall down there.
Right, but there's more than one occasion, people have driven right through them and landed on the
They're
sidewalk or.
That's all different.
That's reinforced concrete.
But
Yeah, maybe.
It is.
But if you put a little bit of money into the materials that you're using and the architectural design of the deck, so it's not just your typical bringing decks and flying them in, you can do that. So we're probably only gonna ever have one parking deck here
Right.
in the future.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
So I just think we need to put something in here that has a definition. Architectural design shall be no less than that of the low country vernacular described in previous sections. That's the simplest thing I could think of, and then
That's good.
when it goes through a review, it gets reviewed. Number two, materials. I think we need to add, so it's on second sentence, such as, brick, comma, cast stone, comma, louvers, comma, et cetera, et cetera.
So. Well, next time is gonna be 2 weeks from today. We'll have bed and breakfast on this and we'll try to make all these revisions.
Would you please publish on,
Not gonna publish the revision, I'll just have to send you sheets of the specific things.
So you're talking about our regular meeting?
1 o'clock.
Are there any, wait, 1 o'clock?
On the 16th.
do you have anything different
And then if I
proposed for bed and breakfast? Other than what we have currently,
Yeah, I have something different. I can send that.
that I would like to see.
What, our regular planning commission meeting's on the 16th at
That's
5.
fine.
5, I thought you all wanted to switch it to a work session.
Oh, cause you don't.
We don't have any
It's up to you.
I would like to
We
switch to
talked
a
about
work
it last
session
time,
and 1 o'clock is fine.
That's fine.
or you could do two, fine.
I mean,
So it's Monday, March 16th.
Oh, we got the
Historic.
district task force at 10.
Yeah, we're gonna do this at 1.
Didn't we say 18th?
Which is
Somehow I
16th.
thought,
1
I
o'clock.
had it at 16.
Yes,
Well, if you
So-
need to change it, you'll just let us know.
we want to do this meeting at
Two, two would probably be better.
Did you have a doctor appointment? Was that what the thing was?
add that this morning.
Oh, okay,
So planning commission work session at 2 that day,
2 o'clock.
in place of regular meeting, okay?
Yeah, that'll let us get lunch in between.
Okay,
We could go to the barbecue place.
yeah, how was that?
I don't know, because I went to get a takeout order and they don't have takeout yet. So,
Where's that?
We talked, barbecue, right, and,
behind Starbucks.
by Starbucks.
Oh, where the
It's inside.
pizza place used to be.
Yeah.
And the old
Border
barbecue.
town.
Barbecue place before that.
I think they had fried fish and they had good fish down there. Or the barbecue.
Oh,
I've got other things in 4 here that I've tabbed. I don't, maybe we've already covered it. I don't remember, because I know we did cover, these are the later ones.
so question, if we're gonna talk about it, and that's fine, you're gonna take about an hour less, but do you want us to? Switch the draft here to.
Updated.
Do you want us to update it all and extend it out now or not? Is that too confusing?
I think it's.
No, I think we've gone through everything. Now,
I'm just trying.
it'll be easy for me to look at these blue marks and see we may have already covered them because they're later in the thing, so.
You're okay with March 16th?
Yeah.
I think it's time to do it.
Or
I agree.
with changes through March 2nd.
Do you want us to work on these changes in the meantime?
Yeah.
Ones we agreed on today, you mean?
Everything that we talked to today.
Oh, you did, yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you can do it as, without any red stuff, just do it as a brand new.
Would be better.
With the red.
Can we have a clean copy then as well? It's so hard to do this.
like a red lined and a clean copy, again, those two.
How many colors do you?
There's usually 4 or 5, but there's yellow, there's blue,
We're
there's
only
red,
gonna do
there's black.
One color.
We're only gonna do red line.
Yeah.
And get rid of the, well, sometimes it comes up as green.
Yeah, well, we can work on that.
As you can see, like,
Yeah.
like that.
You have to have two
blue.
colors.
Like this came up with blue here.
And no.
Everything in this red. It makes more sense.
Is that what you, AI, it's got a mind of its own, you can't correct it anymore, it's completely out of control?
Up until today.
Different colors come from multiple users.
We left off at page
When Kurt goes in, he's one color, Christopher's another color.
Even different Nicholas was doing it today, it went different colors.
I saw blue pop. up, yeah.
Right. Makes sense.
All right, any other discussion?
I'm gonna throw. All right.